Tick tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. We are 11 minutes late, but that's early for people from a certain part of the world. I won't say which part. Hey, AP, what's with all the, apart from your head, you're dressed in complete black. Where's your cross, man? You should at least have your cross on. Is all I see is like ninja outfit. Almost like a burqa.
My cross is right here. This reminds me, so
You got two.
recently, Sam commented on my on
Let me
my
guess.
Twitter.
Had something slick to say.
Yeah, something very, very
Shocker.
funny, something very good to say. So he commented on one of my posts, and it's like, what kind of Christian are you that you go to the wall and you hide your cross and then talk to them to kiss their wall
Yeah, why are you
and suck
hiding?
up to them? It's like, and
You're
the funny thing
hiding.
is,
You're hiding your cross, boy.
it's because of one photo or one short video where I wasn't wearing a cross and I was at the wall, and the entire context of that was that I was recording videos with Tal, the traveling clat. I was walking around with him and hiding my cross initially, then walking up to Jews, talking to them, and then in the middle of the conversation, taking out my cross and then reveal to them that I'm a Christian, and then ask them what they think about me as a Christian and what they think about Christians in general.
Wait,
That
you
was the
posted a
entire
video. You
point.
posted a video of that, didn't you?
I posted one of those videos. There are more of those. I just didn't get around to editing them. But I talked to like 10 Jews or something in Jerusalem, to religious Jews and less religious seeming Jews, about what they think about Christianity, how life is, what they think about conflict and war and all that. So it was very, very nice conversations, and they were all like, "What, we love Christians."
No, they were all spitting on you. Ask Sam what happened. No, they were spitting on him, but he covered it up because he worships Netanyahu, aka Satan Yahoo.
This is the funniest thing. Like the only person that I talked to, the only Jew that I talked to over there, who had a little bit of a less embracing thing to say, was he said, even he was kind of positive. He was like, well, no, everybody's here treated well and equally, and we view all as children of God. And the only thing that we require, that we demand, is that if non-Jewish people live here in this land, they respect our role in this place and our laws, and live by them. That's it. Like that's the only that's the only that's the
Whoa!
harshest thing that somebody said. That's it. And I talked to like 10 randomly picked Jews in the streets of Jerusalem. It
What's
was
up with all
funny.
these Jewish nationalists saying you have to live by the laws of their land if you come to their country?
You see,
Kind of person would
you
say
see.
such a thing? And Sam will be like, "No, here's a video where the Jews spit on someone. This is the proof that they all do this, and you're covering
Hey,
for Satan Yahoo." What?
what's going on my screen, man? I think there's an orb on the screen.
Where?
There are orbs on the screen.
Oh,
There's
there
an
they
orb.
are. There they are. There they are. Oh,
Orbs.
orbs.
Orb.
The orbs. The orbs. Hey, look at this. This is funny. Someone said, Ryan says, David says Muslims aren't taking over the country, but the sitting president is tweeting praise be to Allah. Did you see that, man?
I did. It was a really messed up thing to post.
Wait.
to be
He
honest.
didn't tweet that. He posted it on his platform, and the people shared it. Right? Is
Yeah.
that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So why are you lying about the Why are you lying about the president? Who are you working for the Jews?
What did he post? He posted something like,
He
"Open the
posted something
fucking
like,
tray."
I'm gonna bomb you want to read it real quick? I didn't have it ready.
Yeah.
He's gonna bomb everything, and then he says praise to Allah. I'm like, what
Yeah,
the
Donald
heck,
Trump
man?
says Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump.
Like, it would have already been enraging enough to Muslims without the praise be to Allah.
It's funny because there's one side of people who are outraged about this, who are Muslims, who say that he's mocking Islam by doing this, and then there are others who are like, "Why is he praising Allah?" Dude,
Are they really? And I bet,
yes.
I bet there's some Muslims who were like, yes, you see, he's converting. Oh my goodness, this is the proof. Islam is very strong. Even Donald Trump is converting. First it was Andrew Tate, then Sneeko. Now it's Donald Trump.
You see, this is the proof.
Oh wow. Hey guys.
Hey,
Let's
goys.
see.
Hey, goyim.
We got it's Resurrection Day, folks. Yes, it is. Oh, look, here we go.
It is. Happy
Ooh.
Resurrection Day. Happy Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to everybody.
Oh, across. We just commenced the spitting. That's what they do. That's what they do. What do you mean? The white colonizer town? Yes.
No, he calls himself. He's a funny guy, man. He calls himself a white colonizer. He even wears a hat that says white colonizer, and he's clearly very brown. He's an Iraqi Jew.
Let's see. All right, guys. So, Lee Strobel was on the PBD podcast, so that was super cool of PBD to get an interview with Lee Strobel for Easter weekend. That's cool. We're gonna watch some of it, and then you guys can watch the rest. I have the link in the description box. But before we do that, we had a Coco Loco. Hey, a Coco Loco, you might be loco, but no one is as loco as David Segara. Hey, speaking of David Segara, everyone, Tuesday is my half a century birthday.
Nobody cares about your birthday.
And what do I want for my half a century birthday? That only happens once, guys. It only happens once. Of course, every year birthday only happens once. But half a century birthday on Tuesday. And all I want for my birthday is for everyone to be prepared to share what will be this year's version of what happened with the Zoot last year. Remember how we all took something really, really embarrassing that very, very, very few people know about, and we made it so that tons and tons of people know about it, and we even got it on news programs and on Alex Jones was talking about. Everyone's talking about. Everyone knows about the Zoot now. Well, finally decided what we'd like to share everywhere this year. You got it. There's a few really, really interesting topics to choose from, but got one. Finally made the call. We're already in April. We had to make the call on what the news story for 2026 is going to be. So Tuesday, guys, we'll have some very interesting, fun information all over this screen, which you can take screenshots of when we put the sources up there. And you can spread them like Muhammad spread something on the night of all. You guys are lucky it's Easter. I would have said some very off-color things. Anyway, a Coco Loco says, did y'all see the new Lutheran satire vid? It's hilarious. I had not, and I did not know there was one until I saw this was just in the chat before we started. But I went and checked it out. We're going to go ahead and watch it. I took out the music, guys. I took out the music from the video. But let's check out the new Lutheran satire video. Have you seen this, AP?
No.
It's of various podcasters talking about the resurrection. Y'all ready? Let's check it out.
You see, Protestants worship Luther.
You see, after Luther said that Muslims should conquer Europe, Lutheran satire posts this. Let's check it out.
Wait, you're saying Jesus of Nazareth rose from the dead? Yes, I saw his tomb was empty when I ran there this morning. Whoa, tell me more. Yes, so Peter and I get to his tomb and his...
So this is John, guy. Let me just clarify. So Joe Rogan, you're going to have Candace Owens and stuff on there. And then we've got, this is John from Medieval Artwork. Anyway,
wait, you're saying Jesus of Nazareth rose from the dead? Yes, I saw his tomb was empty when I ran there this morning. Whoa, tell me more. Yes, so Peter and I get to his tomb and his body is nowhere to be found. No, I mean, how fast did you run? What? Did you like stretches or lunges beforehand?
And you have all these women just going to his tomb, bringing what? Spices? Like, that's weird. What is Mary Magdalene doing? It's 6 a.m. and she's bringing paprika to a cemetery?
It's actually pretty good. Joe Rogan does tend to just ask, what less random fitness involved things about what people are talking about. Hey, really? Hey, what do you look like? You work out, man? And then Candace always, here's something that doesn't make sense. Well, we got everyone. We got the Young Turks. We got everybody. Check this out.
Who does that?
Look, I'm not denying that Jesus rose from the dead. I'm glad that he did. I wanted him to. I'm a follower of Jesus. But look at his disciples. What are they doing? Hiding, sad, scared, alone in a room with the doors locked for fear of the Jews. The chief priests aren't doing that. Their doors are open. They're happy. They're out in the streets. They're buying fruit. What does that tell you?
Oh, so this is really what we're doing now.
This is really what you guys want?
Everybody else who dies has to stay dead, but not Jesus.
Not the magical Jew.
This guy from Israel doesn't have to follow the rules that everybody else has to follow.
Unbelievable.
So you
I have to say the Young Turks are like, that's spot on, man.
That's spot on, really.
The magical Jew. It was funny they get like progressively more enraged about the resurrection like they do about everything.
got there first, but Peter went into the tomb first? Yes, and that's when we saw that Jesus had risen. So I have come here to tell you the good news of our Lord's resurrection and how this gives you the right to become a child of God. Cool, yeah. So when you're training for a foot race, what are you doing nutrition-wise? What's your source of protein? Fish?
So sure.
So what's your source of protein? Fish? For you new people who've never read the Bible, John was a fisherman. Get it? All right.
So sure, of course Mary gets to go to the tomb because Mary was very special. And why was Mary so special? Oh, right, because she needed to have 7 demons driven out of her. So, demon girl, that's the one we're dealing with? She's the one that Jesus supposedly appears to?
And was she really a man?
You know what's funny? That's actually very spot. Like this is if this
That's
happens.
exactly what she would focus on. Yeah, she would focus on
If this
something like that.
happens right now, or if she was around with the exact same attitude at that time, that's exactly something that she would say.
Yep.
That should
Oh,
give
yeah.
people something to think about.
And she always was like 1,000 times quicker to start insulting and being suspicious about women than men. Like any
Yeah.
woman is like automatically guilty. She's evil. Like Andrew Tate, automatically innocent. Weird stuff. It was like who was it? Was it Milk Bar who was pointing this out? Who was it who kept pointing out that when she was reporting about a guy and what he was charged with respect to one of his child victims and stuff, she would give the child victim's name but redact the guy's name.
Oh, yeah.
And then say
Yeah.
it's to protect him from. It's like him, not her, him. Anyway, that's like creepy evil stuff.
It's really evil stuff.
Check out Tucker's face. All right, here we go.
Of course the stone was rolled away, and I'm happy about that. I've always been in favor of that. Everyone knows that about me. But Pilate ordered the tomb sealed, and we're just going to ignore that? The stone was expensive. It keeps in the smell. It's there for a reason. So how'd you get in the tomb? Did you roll away the stone? No, an angel of the Lord rolled away the stone. Whoa! I know, an angel rolled the stone away to proclaim that the Son of God has come to conquer sin, death, and the grave for us. Wow. So this angel, what's his supplement regimen? Why you do this to me, Joe?
Everything about nutrition. All right, here we're back to the Young Turks.
You guys get nailed to a cross right next to him, but they don't rise on the 3rd day, and you know why?
Because they're not the Son of
No,
God.
only this guy gets to be the Son of God. Only he gets to be the Holy One of the Lord who won't see corruption.
Oh, but we get to partake in his victory over death if we follow him.
That's right, just believe in a Jew, and you can live forever.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, I could have done that. I can cry outside of a tomb. I can run and tell people that Jesus was resurrected.
And of course I believe.
He said, "Did you catch that?" She said, "Resurrected." he has actually picked up on all the little quirks. So yeah, Candace will start attacking women and then bragging about she can do anything else they can and stuff like this, and she's better. And then she'll pronounce words in really weird ways.
And I can cry outside of a tomb. I can run and tell people that Jesus was resurrected.
And of course I believe he rose from the grave. I'm aware of it. But when people question whether his disciples stole his body, is that not something we can ask? Why? Are they not strong enough? They don't have spare rugs for corpse rolling? Of course they have spare rugs.
Honestly, I don't even know why she was going out there to begin with. Jesus actually told me that I was the only person he trusted to do anointings.
That's the other thing about Candace. Like, she'll get some special message just for her and roll with it as if it's
She
factual.
has to be the one. She specially communicates with.
He must actually watch some podcasters, man.
This to me so many times. I have so much proof of it. I'm going to show everyone the proof tomorrow. Or maybe next week, actually, because tomorrow I have to go buy some Frankenstein scents.
But then later...
She said Frankenstein sense. Frankenstein sense. Oh man, yeah, and he zeroed in on like all the key features of Candace too, because that one, and then of course this. Oh yeah, we're getting close, but I'll eventually I'll give you all the proof very soon, and of course soon never comes.
I'm going to show everyone the proof tomorrow. Or maybe next week, actually, because tomorrow I have to go buy some Frankenstein scents.
But then later in the day, he appears to you and the other guys? Yes, he appeared to us in the locked room, and he breathed out the Holy Spirit upon us, thereby giving his church the promise that all who receive holy absolution have been clothed in the glorious peace of God. That's why he breathed on us. Are you short of breath? What? Are you getting winded easily? Why, yes. Omnazobal supplements and goat yeast factory is here to help. Joe, you're doing commercial. Try Omnazobal's L-lysine lung-enhancing suppository. Joe, you are ruining the best day of my life.
This is where there's music written and directed by and performed by Hans Fiener. I think maybe the reason we like podcasts so much is because we are lonely and under-socialized. And when it comes to the conspiracy theory podcasts, maybe we like them because they feed our dopamine addictions and convince us we have access to the super secret information that makes us righteous. I don't know. Either way, maybe we should listen to Jesus, listen to more Jesus and less blah, 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 you know?
So yes, of course I'm a believer in the resurrection. I just want someone to give us the whole story. Which brings me to our guest today. Please welcome Caiaphas, the high priest.
You catch that? He nailed it. Hey, what is this? Have you guys seen the massive Christian turnout in Times Square? No, did not know there was one. Is that true, AP?
I didn't. I haven't followed.
Orbs everywhere. That's from
Orbs.
Alan. And then we have orbs, you see.
You see, look at that. There's orbs. What the?
Did Trump mock Allah?
Look, my orbs are huge.
Trump trolling. All right, guys. So we're going to try to not be distracted by all the orbs, but we're going to check out the PBD Podcast with our main man, Lee Strobel. Take these super chats and we'll jump into the video. I think the Turk is backing up to Muhammad's chest. Did you see that yesterday? Or was it yesterday or the day before? Was that? Wait, gosh, when was that, man?
It was 2 days ago, or 3 days, 2 days ago.
Yeah, did you see that one when someone quoted the hadith about Muhammad sneaking up behind somebody, runs up like, guess who? And he found out it's Muhammad, so he starts rubbing his back up on his chest and stuff. What's crazy is it's only like the 185th gayest hadith about Muhammad. And it was about a dude like Muhammad sneaking up behind someone, sneaking up on you. All right. Here we have Ida with the super sticker. And now we can see super stickers, super base. Okay, you two have a good night. I've got to go to bed. I'll watch tomorrow.
Nice.
That's cool.
Good night.
State of the law. Hey, Sarah. Hey, I don't know if you guys got the news, but Jesus is risen. Happy dance. Happy Easter. D. Wood, AP, the proof. Happy Easter. Did you guys see the American pilot was rescued? Yes, that was super cool.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. Because when you hear after like a day still missing, you're thinking probably not good. And anyway, they got him. Happy Easter. Thank you, Ida. D. Wood, you guys should do a mock moral debate in honor of the one you guys were going to do before AP became Christian, like the planned mock Aisha debate with Nabil.
We were supposed to do a debate about morality, right?
No, we started. We posted our opening statements, and then I disappeared for a while from making videos. And then every time I would be like, "Hey, ready to go?" He wouldn't be ready, but it was usually me. And then he ruined it by leaving atheism. So he ruined it. You should go back to atheism just so we can do that debate. Hey, what is this planned mock debate with Nabil?
I don't know. That's just something that you would know. Why are you asking me?
Yeah, what is that? What is that talking about? I don't know if it's about something I've talked. Like I have his emails and stuff like that when we were arguing about stuff back in the day. Let's see. Wingnuts unite! No. The praise be to Allah's genius using Muslim war cry against them when they are losing is top tier psychological warfare. That's right. Every time they do anything, they should say Allahu Akbar. No Islam, no peace. No Islam, no peace. Much love from Chicago. Fighting against them out here too. No need to fight. Part of me thinks Dawkins is cheering you fellas on for being voices against Islam. Keep at it, fellas. I'm trying to learn from all of you guys. Lol. I mean, Dawkins has been saying for years that he thinks Christianity was the bulwark against Islam, and its decline means his entire civilization gets overrun. Friends, I don't know what to do. I need help. Lately, I've been seeing orbs, and they're talking to me. What are they saying? If they're saying something good, that's okay. If they're saying you must kill people.
Why are you making fun of that guy, man? Like, we mentioned him once here, but it's not good making fun of somebody.
This is messed up. What do you find under a moped, Aisha? All right, I'm copying that. Oh wait. What do you find on a moped? Al-Zut. All right, that one's even better. I'm stealing that. Jack Ray. I've mentioned before, I give no credit. I will tell a joke and everyone will say, David, that's the funniest joke ever. And I will not even bother to tell anyone that I stole it.
Somebody mentioned something about dopamine earlier. This is just very fascinating to me. Have you learned about this thing in your psychology endeavors? There was a study from the 1950s where they were making an experiment where they were intending to attach surgically something like shocks to the brains of rats, which was supposed to trigger the learning center of the brain.
Learning center.
And they wanted to see what happens and how exactly they function when they repeatedly push a lever to get food as a result of that. But they made a mistake in their surgical process, and instead of attaching it to their learning center, the septal area, they attached it to their reward center. What happened as a result is that the rats would go to the lever. Instead of just pushing it and waiting for food, they would push it, and they would do it again and again and again and again, and they would not even take the food that was given to them. They would not take care of their basic needs at all anymore. They would simply just keep pushing the lever
until they die.
Yeah, they would starve themselves and keep pushing it. They would push it like over 2,000 times an hour to keep doing it. And what It was an accident. So they accidentally placed the device to that part of the brain, but what it revealed was something about reward center in the brain and addiction, which is that they feel pleasure when they push the lever again and again and again, and they love it so much it triggers something so pleasant that they will ignore their basic survival necessities and will just keep pushing the lever again and again and again to starve themselves even to death. That's kind of like a foundational accidental experiment that started that helped psychology understand addiction, which is what a lot of study on addiction today is basically based on. It's I don't know, I read and learned about lots of those experiments in psychology, but that one for some reason is always in my head. I found it fascinating.
Well, while you were talking about it, I was thinking of family members and stuff who like would ordinarily be when they're not addicted to something would ordinarily be like some of the people you could depend on most in the world, and then when they're addicted, you wouldn't trust them with anything. I mean, not with anything.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this troublemaker here. He says, I want to remind people that if the Protestants got to the Shroud of Turin back then, it would be destroyed when they went on their demonic rampages. So I find it ironic they are making YouTube vids about it.
Oh, cool.
Someone said we should react to our morality debate video. That would be something fun. We could just rewatch them in the live. We could rewatch them in a live stream and share our thoughts on them after a couple of years now.
That would be funny. We should do that.
We should totally do that. We should totally do that. Set it up.
Hey, what do you think about that? What do you think about the Shroud of Turin as evidence or whatever you think?
It is. I made a video about it. And I've never been like completely convinced that it's true or seriously convinced that it's a forgery. I think in terms of probabilities and stuff like that. But I explained it in the video I posted. It's a situation where I assign a very low prior probability, given how many different kinds of, forgeries of things there have been over the centuries, and just like kind of what I think are the odds of someone preserving a burial cloth for 2,000 years and stuff like that all over the place. And so it's a situation where, I think low probability of that. And therefore you have to have awesome evidence to outweigh that. If you don't assign an extremely low prior probability to that, then the evidence might be totally compelling to you. There are tons of interesting features. There have been important objections. There have been important responses to those objections, like the carbon dating and things like that. So I periodically go through the evidence, but I'm kind of like 30%, like 30% chance that I think that's authentic, 20 to 30 or something like that. Other people are like, no, it's obviously authentic. And Habermas, who I interviewed on that. I mean, I didn't interview. I pointed a camera at him and told him to just talk about the shroud and stuff like that. He thinks it's probably the authentic burial cloth and stuff. But with all that said, guys, I'm not an expert. There are people who know way more about both sides of the issue than I am.
And I read arguments for and against the authenticity of it very, very much. And at the end of all of it, I still have no idea what to think about it. So, yeah.
Yep. And what do we have here? We have this guy
but I can't
to divide everyone.
Say that but I can't for certain say or lean toward or confidently lean. Even if I don't have even if I'm kind of neutral on it, I can't confidently lean toward probably believable and holy and all that. It's just, and in that state, I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to think about it at all and what I'm supposed to feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's a situation where, if it's a forgery, if it was someone making a forgery, hands down, bar none, most epically brilliant forgery of all time, right?
Yep.
Like I would actually assign an extremely low probability to the idea that it was a deliberate forgery, because like the features on this, right? I mean, if you look at it, it's just like a little bit of brown discoloration. It's not until people didn't even know how detailed this thing was until someone took a photograph of it. It was either at the end of the 1800s or the very beginning of the 1900s. I think Secundo Pia is coming to my mind. I think that's the photographer's name. But he took pictures and he saw the negative, and all of a sudden the negative looked like a picture, it looked like a photograph. And it's like, how, if you're a forger, what do you think? Hey, I'm just going to put some brown discoloration on the cloth. But centuries later, some guy's going to take a photograph and then he'll see it's a photographic negative. It's like, how would you even plan for that sort of thing? So, if it's not authentic and not a forgery, it would be like something that was made for something else, like some sort of, people have suggested that it was made for it. They used to have passion plays and stuff like that, and so it was used for that, and due to being used and stuff like that, maybe had some sort of image on it, and then after years of fading and so on, it like coincidental. So here's the thing: it's really low prior probability for me for this thing to be authentic, but the alternatives, they don't seem very good, right? Deliberate forgery, you'd have to be one of the greatest geniuses of all time to forge that. They still have trouble figuring out how that image could be produced. And then if it's just an accident, it was made for something else, and then it turned out like that. And then you just accidentally made like a photographic. So anyway. Really, really weird. And those are the situations where like, yep, I don't know. And I leave it to other people to continue debating. And if anyone ever comes up with a slam dunk case, then one way or the other, then let me know.
And that's also the thing. I think there have been like attempts to recreate it with known techniques of the time of the Middle Ages or before, and they have been unsuccessful. So people haven't been able to create or recreate it based on the time that it has been attributed to. That said, I don't really know. What its relevance really would be to me. And even if it was proven to be authentic, to go back to somebody, not sure how it would necessarily be attributed to Jesus, and what exactly the role of it would be in faith. I would believe without it or with it. So
yeah, those are some of the other issues. Like there have been people who believe that it is the authentic burial shroud of a crucifixion victim, right? So you have that. You have that position. You could say, well, I think it was an actual burial cloth, but you do have some features, right? You have the wounds on the head, like a crown of thorns was pushed on it. You have the wound in the side and so on. So looks like, but then you've also had people who think it's the authentic burial shroud of Jesus, but not an image that was made by the resurrection. They're thinking like terms of like sweat and bacteria and stuff forming an image, and then you have the people who think it's authentic. They're like, no, it's some sort of radiation. There's some sort of radiation that made this image. Anyway, maybe we should get an expert on it. Maybe we should get two experts like on both sides of the issue. Anyway, what was interesting was the original group of people who went to study it. They all thought it was going to be like a total joke, right? They said, we thought we were going to point the microscope at this stuff. We're going to see the brush strokes from the paint, and we're going to, okay, this is paint. Instead, all of them except like one became convinced that it's authentic. When they started examining it closely. So that's what led to the push for carbon dating. And then by that time, you had tons of experts who thought it was authentic. And then you had the carbon dating. And then people were like, well, if the carbon dating says otherwise, then I guess it's not authentic. And then later on, you had responses to the carbon dating, which was it's been argued that the pieces that were used for the carbon dating were rewoven into it. They weren't part of the original shroud. It was after it was damaged in a fire. They had people actually reweave parts of it and stuff like this to make it complete again, and that these extra parts were the ones that were being dated and so on. So people actually argued, no, you need to get a piece in there, and then they've used other dating methods which gave earlier dates and things like that. So anyway, it's kind of wild stuff. But what you don't want to do is be like this guy here and randomly attack Protestants and say what Protestants would have done if they had the burial cloth of Jesus. They would be like, no, then people will worship a cloth. We will burn this thing. Paul State of Allah said, D. Wood, you're going to be 50. Going after Islam apparently keeps people looking young. Ladies, you can stop buying skincare now. Just start going after Islam.
Islam.
Yes, 50. I am still the oldest person in my bloodline and still getting older. At 50, Mo was already being choked by Jibreel and Dia and received revelations from Allah. Does that make you feel inferior in your life accomplishments, Dizzle? Happy Easter, all. Yeshua is risen indeed. And then that's from Humbly Bee with David Sagara. I was born and raised in Chicago. Islam to me is a gang. Yeah, it kind of is for lots of people. It unalives you if you leave. It lies taquilla to pretend it's peaceful. They are radical downtown Chicago. Much love from a Chicagoan. Then a negative comment, apparently, about Sharia law. Love to see D. Wood and AP react to that moral debate. Yeah, that's a comment I saw pop up when I was like, oh, we should do that. Happy Resurrection Day. Thank you, everyone. Christ is risen. AP, not for another week.
I want to say it today too. I very much celebrate it. So
yeah, you can
but
say
liturgically it would be next week for the Orthodox. So.
Yeah, but you can, just so everyone knows, you can say Christ is risen every single day of the year.
In fact, the Orthodox Church does. I mean, we're supposed to say Christ is risen throughout the entirety of those 40 days of Lent until Holy Week, until the resurrection. Just regularly, Christ is risen. He is indeed, and stuff.
Have you ever seen the Credo Legionario? No, I have not.
You haven't seen it?
Hey, what's this? We got two comments about King Charles. Did you hear King Charlie batting for the Zooty Boys? Really? Did he do that again?
Did he?
Search for King Charles, see what pops up, and I'll read this next comment about King Charles. My theory is that King Charles is a secret Muslim. He was very positive towards Islam and Islamic culture as it relates to the West, while being mute on Christianity. No Easter address this year, but Eid address. What you think?
I'm not sure if he... So I know that people say that he's a Muslim and all that. The thing is, I think that the common... I think what is more likely is that he simply doesn't care about Christianity. He simply doesn't believe in Christianity. That he's simply indifferent. That he is unfortunately, and you know, British people are supposed to have respect and loyalty toward the king, and so many of them that I've spoken to feel very, very terrible about the fact that he is the king, because he doesn't seem to have any respect for any of the British values and the faith and the traditions and things like that. It's just compared to the Queen, the late Queen, he seems to be a complete signal of the decay, of the decline of the valuable and the traditional and all that, which is pretty sad.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Whenever it's hey, look at his actions. This would be consistent if he's actually a secret Muslim. Well, that's true, but the evidence is also consistent with something else, which seems more likely. A, he doesn't really care about Christianity because he's growing up when people are caring about Christianity less and less. And B, then over the past few decades, absorbed the idea that the best thing you can do in life is be super pro-Islam, and only racists have a problem with Islam and so on. You can actually absorb that idea and behave in exactly the same way. That's like when people were, Obama's a secret Muslim. And I was like, why? Well, look at these things he's doing and saying. Well, if he's an actual leftist who went to the schools and absorbed the ideas from the professors that we know he was, in these classes and stuff like that, that's exactly how he would act as well. And so.
But what about his birth certificate? I've seen it. It said Kenya.
In Quebec, a law passed against street prayer, going against the Rights and Freedoms Charter because they can't apply the laws in place to, hey, this is one of three. How many posts are you going to make?
Secularism law.
Yeah, I
Is
say they're just
looming on the
like,
way of
I think they're
cross
like,
marches and conformity.
if I saw it correctly, they're just like blocking any sort of street prayer, and therefore Muslims can't pray either, but neither can
Several
anyone else.
hundred people are expected to join Archbishop Christian in a march of prayer, reflection, and silence. I really wonder what is actually being passed. I hate the media, man. I absolutely hate the media.
No, the media is very strong and based.
You want to look something up, and they tell you everything that they want to tell you except the facts. Just
Sounds
list
about
the
right.
facts.
That
Just
sounds
list what it is instead of telling me a whole story about what you think about it and what your perspective is.
Yep, sounds good. And Easter address isn't normally done by the monarch. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that too. Eid address wouldn't be terribly needed either historically, but he made time for that, didn't he? All right, let's go ahead and check out.
Did he?
What did you say?
made
Let's
time for
check
that.
out. Did he?
He made time for that, did he?
I said let's check out, and you said Diddy. I don't want to check
No.
out Diddy, man.
He said, didn't he? And
We're
I
not
said, did he?
checking out Diddy, man. It's a clean
Diddy.
show.
Okay, fine.
All right. We will
No
check
detail.
out Lee Strobel on PBD.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
All right, Lee Strobel, great to have you here.
Thank you. Wonderful to
We've
be
been
here.
looking forward to having you for a long time. I have an interesting story with you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
tell me
but
about it.
before we get into it, I think it's important for the audience to know, for those who don't, you've sold nearly 20 million copies
Yeah.
of your books, 40 plus books. The big one being Case for Christ and
Right.
Case for Church. There's a bunch of them. I know you have a new one that came out, Seeing the Supernatural, which we'll get into as well. And it's funny because 2 weeks ago I had Scott Galloway on. I don't know if you know who he
I
is,
don't know
Professor
Scott.
Scott Galloway. A very
Galloway?
good voice on the liberal side who talks about fatherhood, very successful business guy.
Yeah.
And while we're talking, I said, so tell me about your relationship with God and faith. He said, look, I wish I had faith. I don't. I said, well, look, normally when I talk to somebody who is either a super logical thinker and maybe their philosophy or maybe their math or maybe hardcore logic,
Yeah.
I'll recommend two books to them. And I recommended those two books to them. I said, number one, you got to read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, which, by the way, Shadowlands, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it or
Oh,
not.
yeah.
Great, Anthony
Great.
Hopkins.
Anthony
I said, the
Hopkins.
second book you got to read is Case for Christ
Oh,
by Lee
that's
Strobel.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah, you were talking about
What?
Sarah.
I'm not-
Sarah
it's
was
not Sarah.
talking about blasting away at Islam, keeping you young. Well, Lee historically hasn't been blasting away at Islam. You know how old this guy is, AP?
83.
Look at him, man. Look at him.
83.
That dude is 74 years old, man.
What?
That dude is 74 years old.
Based.
Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. Anyway, Patrick says he always recommends to logical thinkers who want evidence. He says he recommends Mere Christianity and Case for Christ. Hey, you know what's interesting? Those are two of the books I read very early on. I've mentioned before that I read a few Christian apologetics books without knowing what Christian apologetics was. So I read some things just thinking I was reading books about, just general books about Christianity and stuff. Looking back, they were apologetics books. So I read the a Hugh Ross book, Creator and the Cosmos. I read that while I was in jail. Read some other things in jail. I read Screw Tape Letters like 2 months after I became a Christian, when I got to Southampton Reception and Classification Center, and I saw Randy. He was there, and he gave me Screw Tape Letters. He said, read this. And so I read it, and then I read it again. That was dope. And then when I was transferred to long-term prison, then I read Mere Christianity, but it was just because I liked Screw Tape Letters, but Mere Christianity was an awesome book. All that time I didn't know what Christian apologetics was. And then I've mentioned this before, but an old guy named William Buck, old guy, probably long dead, because he's one of those guys who's just been locked up for like decades and stuff. But he came up to me and he said, "Hey, my daughter sent me this. Looks like something you'd be interested in. It's called More Than a Carpenter." And anyway, it just sat on my little headboard I had on my bunk there for a little while, and then I was like, okay, let me read a couple pages of this just so I can tell the old man that I read some of it. And anyway, really I started reading. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love this. So anyway, I read the entire book. And then I saw in a Christian book distributor's catalog, has all these books, and there's always this section called apologetics, which I never paid attention to because I didn't know what apologetics was. And then I saw that More Than a Carpenter was in the apologetics section. So I was like, oh, that's where I got to go because I like this and I'm interested in more of this. And I ordered The Case for Christ on tape because at that time I had a window washing job in the dorm. So I had to go around washing all the windows. And I was like, hey, I could listen to stuff while I'm going around washing all the windows. So I would walk around washing the windows, listening to Case for Christ. So I listened to the audio version a bunch of times back in the day. So that was in the 1990s.
And
So what you're saying is I'm supposed to get it then.
Case for Christ is a good book, man.
I'm getting it right now. When I on my journey to Christianity, aside from the Bible, of course, I did read. I think the first actual book, aside from the Bible, was Mere Christianity. It's kind of funny because over the years, as an atheist, having this supposedly positive attitude toward Christianity and faith, I had this great arrogance toward any mention of C.S. Lewis and of Mere Christianity, this very dismissive attitude. So once I dropped that, and once somebody told me to stop being so arrogant and to be humble in the world and listen, I thought, all right. So the first thing that I wanted to read was Mere Christianity, and I was blown away by how amazing it was. So I really love that book. It's really if you are a Christian or a non-Christian and you haven't read it, I would definitely recommend that you read that book. I also read what was that? The Imitation of Christ. Is that what it's called? Very popular book. Was interesting. And then I read The Orthodox Way, which is Callisto's Ware. I still have to read a lot of. I just recently started listening to Screw Tape Letters and really liked it. I think I actually finished it while I was driving. It's very, 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 very nice book. So,
Listen to the John Cleese audio version, man. It's on.
No.
I listened to it like probably 23, 24 years ago from a library. People don't even remember these things called libraries, but there are these things called libraries. Hey, Jonathan, I see you finished up your 3-part series. So when we start Super Chats again, I'll go back to your number 1 in that series, and then we'll read the other ones. On that note of More Than a Carpenter and Mere Christianity, I've also mentioned I had a bunkmate named Kane. And so I was on the top bunk, and that's how I kind of remember the progression, because I don't remember like what year this was, but I can figure out when it was because I remember reading Mere Christianity. Like I remember reading Screw Tape Letters because Randy gave me the book, and so I know where I was, so I could actually pin down like the week I read that just by when I was transferred, and then saw Randy on the ball field like the next day or two, and then he gave me the book, and then I read it anyway. But I read Mere Christianity, and I remember being on the top bunk while I was reading Mere Christianity, so I know where I was. Anyway, you start off and you're on the top bunk. And then bottom bunks become open when someone gets transferred, or when someone is released. And so there's a waiting list. So when you get there, you're put on the top bunk, and you're at the bottom of the waiting list and stuff like that. And eventually, after a while, as people leave, you get higher and higher up on the list, and then they eventually offer you a bottom bunk, so you don't have to climb up on top bunk. You can, it's cooler being on the bottom bunk because you can just, you can sit on it. You don't have to be laying in. Anyway, they offered me the bottom bunk over in like the tattoo cube. This is where all the tattoos were. Everyone is always smoking weed and stuff over there. And this was the tattoo place. So every night it would be like hours of tattooing. And Kane was the tattoo artist. Kane, guys, you remember he did a couple live streams with me a couple years ago when he was visiting and stuff. We did some live streams. Anyway, Kane was a total pagan. And again, that's a tattoo spot. And I was like, they offered me that bottom bunk, and I was like, I'm thinking, I don't want to go over there, man. I don't want to go over there. It's like, no. I like this top. I mean, I don't like the top bunk, but I like the cube I was in. Knew everyone there. Don't want to go over to the tattoo and drug capital of the prison and stuff. But then I was like, I was thinking, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I was about to go to the bottom I was about to turn it down. They say you have to tell us within the next hour. And I'm thinking, all right, do I want to go over there? And I'm thinking, no. And so, okay, but I'm going to go to the bottom of the list. Okay, so I'm going to wait another, several months before I get another bottom bump. But no, I don't want to go over there. Now I was just thinking, oh, what if God wants me to go over there and talk to that dude? So I went over there, and it's funny. Kane told me later he thought I was sent over there as a snitch, right? he thought I was sent over as a snitch because I'm Mr. Goody Two Shoes at this point, right? So he thought I was a snitch, and that I'm supposed to spy on him and give them all the details. And it was funny because he'd be saying all kinds of things to me. He'd be like, "Yeah, police keep coming over because people snitch, and that I'm doing the tattoos." They don't even know. I have the tattoo gun right here under my locker, man. They're not even checking me. So he's feeding me information like that, right? Like I'm going to snitch, and then he's going to know I'm a snitch because they're going to come right there and stuff. And he said, so I kept waiting. I kept feeding you all this information, and no one ever came. And so he's like, I guess this guy's not a snitch. Anyway, Kane, that I told you guys remember. Kane would be sitting there going, "Hey, reading your Bible again. Hey. You should try some of this acid. It'll really make the words come off the page, and you'll understand them like you've never understood them before." I was like, "Nah, thanks. I'll just stick to reading, man. I'll just stick to reading and praying." He's going, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stick some stuff. You always have that cup of water beside your bed. I'm going to stick something in that water one day, and you're going to thank me later because you're just going to be drinking your water and reading the Bible, and you're going to understand it like you've never understood before, and you'll thank me." And I was like, "Dude, if I ever start feeling weird after drinking this, I'm swinging. I'm just swinging straight up. So don't do that, man. I'm just swinging. That'll be it." And anyway, a little later, Kane becomes a Christian. His dad was dying of cancer. His dad was an atheist. And so Kane, after he becomes a Christian, goes into like panic mode. He's like, "Man, my dad's dying," and stuff like this. And so he sent his dad a case of he sent his dad a copy of Mere Christianity, and his dad read it. But his dad was super smart guy and stuff. And so he sends him a letter back and says, okay, read the book, thanks. Kane sends him a letter back. "Well, what do you think of it?" Dad sends him a letter back. "Do you really want to know?" And Kane sends him a letter back, says, "Yes, I want to know." And his dad sends him like this long letter of him just attacking Mere Christianity over and over again. And this and blah, blah, blah. And what a stupid point here and stuff, just blasting away. And then after that, he sent his dad a copy of More Than a Carpenter. And he never got his dad's reaction to that because after his dad finished that, he didn't write anymore because he died shortly right after that. But his mom, Kane's mom, sent him a letter and said, I don't know what you told him to do, but his last words to me were, as Red Skelton always says, God bless." And so Kane didn't know what to make of that. But anyway, he was pretty encouraged by that. So anyway, that was More Than a Carpenter. And then after that I started reading. Well, no, with Case for Christ, it was the audiobook. So you can also get that as audiobook too, man, if you prefer audiobook.
I just got that as audiobook, actually. But no, I actually put it on my list because lately I've been doing this whole thing where I start getting thousands of books and then I accumulate them and I don't read them or do anything with them. So I thought to myself, I will not get another one before I read a few.
Hey, that's good.
Hey, I just realized that the guy from Whatever Podcast blocked me. the host of Whatever Podcast, because he made a post calling somebody else a coward who only wants to pub stomp easy, unskilled can opponents, whatever that means. And I thought, what an irony, man. That's what your whole show is. Just inviting these models on and just debating them, inviting the dumbest people on and debating them. So I quoted it and said, "Dude, that's you." But then he blocked
me. Was it. That was it.
Yeah, he blocked me for that.
Kind of thin skin, isn't it? A little thin skin there.
Yeah, these manosphere people just have very thin skin, man.
Manosphere guys aren't very manly. All right. Okay, back to Lee here.
My story is back in 2002, 2003, when I got out of the military, I was an atheist for 25 years of my life. I lived in Iran, so it's kind of tough to be a Christian when you're in Iran, war, parents get a divorce. And then I'm doing Bible study in Pasadena every other Friday night from 6 p.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And your stuff would come up all the time. And then that led me to, studying the topics, and we're doing these Bible studies and all this stuff. Anyways, but now we are sitting down talking.
Yeah,
So it's a great conversation.
awesome.
I got a lot of questions for you.
Yeah. That's encouraging.
Yes, I got a lot of questions for you. But I want to start off with, today, a lot is going on in the world. We have the war going on. We have, data that's coming out with what churches are growing, which ones are not,
Mike Winger is so annoying. When I hear Data, I'm thinking Mike Winger's probably going, "You mean Data from Star Trek The Next Generation? He was my favorite character." It's annoying, man.
Are challenges when you talk to somebody about introducing.
Gosh, you have the ugliest dog in the universe, man. You should put that
know.
dog up for ugly dog competitions.
I will.
You ever
Soon.
seen those dogs in the ugly dog competitions? They have like tongues that never go back in their mouth. Their tongue, they always have a tongue that's hanging out, and like one messed up eye and stuff like that. Anyway,
No.
classic. Your dog can be in that competition, man. Actually, I just don't
Okay.
like him because he always barked at me. No, he always growled at me.
Data that's coming out with what churches are growing, which ones are not. There are challenges when you talk to somebody about introducing them to going back to church. They'll go back to a time where there was a massive crisis at a mega church they were a part of, where there was a big falling out. And
Right.
man, I'll never trust the church again. I'll never trust the pastor again. I experienced that myself as well. And I know you were part of one, and the pastor you were part of was one I used to study his stuff very closely. He had very, very good content. We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But the opening question I want to start off with you. You write in the book Case for Christ.
Yeah.
Who killed Jesus Christ?
You did. I did. We did. Ultimately.
No, the Jews did. What?
This should be the perspective that everybody has, right?
What? That it was the Jews.
That it was all of us. Isn't that quite clear in the text and in the faith?
He died
I think
because
accusing others or accusing specific people or not even specific people or specific groups, just accusing anybody else of being guilty or having killed Christ is kind of it almost to me feels like a rejection of the burden that you have as a Christian, a rejection of the responsibility that you have as a Christian. It almost feels to me like, oh, I want to weasel out of what God is, as of what I have done. I'm not responsible for anything at all. It's almost like you're saying Jesus didn't die for you, or something like that. I don't know. It's a wild thing to use that narrative against other people.
Let's see what Lee has to say about that.
we did. Ultimately, he died because he paid for the sins of humankind. He atoned for our sins. He paid the penalty we deserve for the sins that we've committed so that we could be given a free gift of forgiveness and eternal life. So when it comes right down to it, you and I are the ones who killed Jesus.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say that.
If by you and I you mean the Jews, then we agree with you completely. I'm still impressed by how young this dude looks. Here's the thing. He probably eats all sorts of like salad and crap, and it's like, is it worth it? Like, would you rather be super old at 74, but you spent your entire life eating delicious steaks and stuff, or be super healthy at 74, but your entire life has been like eating wheatgrass? No, I don't know. He could just like, I don't know. Maybe it's something else, but
I would rather eat delicious food.
Yeah. My history suggests that's the case for me as well. The case for steak. How about that book?
If you're a Christian, that's the answer, right?
Yeah.
But if you're somebody that's not a Christian, say you're an atheist, say you're if I'm talking to the 19, I don't know, I think you gave your life to Christ, was it 1980? I don't know what year it was.
1981.
1981, right, when you gave your life to Christ. And
Yeah.
I was 5.
You were 27, 28.
Yeah, about
And
30, yeah.
prior to that, you're a journalist
Yes.
for the Chicago Tribune.
Right.
Your job is to investigate everybody, so you look at things in a different way. You're an investigator.
Hey, AP. Yeah, if you don't know what the case for Christ is, this for everyone else. It's cool. You're getting kind of like case for Christ in a nutshell. He was an atheist. He was a reporter for the Chicago Tribune. I'm sure he's going to share it here. His wife actually becomes a Christian. He's super annoyed. And he starts investigating. He starts investigating the resurrection of Jesus and so on. And then eventually, for the case for Christ, he understands he's not like the scholar in this. So anyway, the case for Christ, he goes around and interviews various academics on topics related to Jesus and so on, and then puts it all together. So he put his journalistic skills to good use.
Investigative journalist.
Right.
How would you have answered that question when you were doing the investigation of wanting to know who killed Jesus Christ, the non-Christian? What would that answer be for the non-Christian, not the Christian?
Yeah. Well, certainly the Romans had the authority to crucify someone. And by the way, they didn't crucify Roman citizens because it was such a cruel, torturous death that Roman citizens were exempt. But of course, they had to implement it. It was encouraged by the Jewish leaders of the day, who were opposed to Jesus. And so they both had a role, you would say, in the actual execution of Jesus.
What was Romans' concerns? What was the Romans' involvement? And what was the Pharisees?
Well, it's interesting. The Romans, if you look at Pilate, he sort of washed his hands. He tried to kind of distance himself from it. If you read the account, it doesn't sound like he was that into it. It seems like he was more capitulating to the crowd. He offered to give him Barabbas. Hey, let's trade out here, and or Jesus. And of course, they chose to free Barabbas, not Jesus.
Yeah. So the Romans guys were obsessed with maintaining order. That was the concern. And if Jesus is causing an uproar, well, Jesus has to go then.
So the Romans, didn't like the fact that Jesus was claiming to be the unique Son of God, the Messiah.
Why? What were they?
Because in those days, the emperor was considered to be divine. And so Caesar would be considered divine.
So it's kind of.
I have to say that was more of a concern for the followers of Jesus. For the followers of Jesus afterwards with the Romans, it's that they wouldn't go in like burn incense to Caesar and so on, and so they were viewed as like traitors, along the lines of traitors against the state and so on. So. But yeah, it seems like as far as like Pilate is concerned, it's just, okay, I have to maintain order. I'm in trouble if I'm the local leader and I am not maintaining order. In other words, it gets to the higher ups that you can't maintain order in your area. You're not going to last there very long. So got to do what it takes. That's what he was thinking.
We're okay if you want to worship Jesus,
yes,
but not above Caesar.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And the Pharisees didn't like that Jesus was coming in and kind of throwing a monkey wrench into all the rules and regulations that they wanted people to live by, and talking more about grace and more.
For all the nerds, I just want to point out that the accurate pronunciation back then for the Romans was Kaiser, which is very close to the German word Kaiser, which is directly adopted. So Caesar was actually pronounced Kaiser. Nobody had to know this, but I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, and it's completely irrelevant because we pronounce it Caesar now.
Yeah. What's also interesting is that they had a pilot 1,900 years before airplanes were invented.
Yes, this makes no sense.
Anyway, continue.
You ever see those dumb atheists and they go, really? They were in the Middle East and they found followers named Matthew and John, really?
One of those. It was gosh, it was so dumb.
Really? And now there was a pilot back then? Come on, guys.
Why would they have a pilot? It doesn't make sense. There weren't even planes back then. Christians are
Christians.
Throwing a monkey wrench into all the rules and regulations that they wanted people to live by, and talking more about.
They had a monkey wrench that he threw in your plan. Don't mess with Lee Strobel. He's a bad, bad man. That's a song.
And the Pharisees didn't like that Jesus was coming in and kind of throwing a monkey wrench into all the rules and regulations that they wanted people to live by, and talking more about grace and more about what it means to be a true follower of God. And so there's a lot of conflict there. He was making divine and messianic claims about himself. At one point, Jesus got up before a group and he said, "I and the Father are one." And the Greek word there for one is not masculine, it's neuter, which means he wasn't saying I and the Father are the same person. He was saying I and the Father are the same thing. We're one in nature, we're one in essence. And the audience got what he was saying. They picked up stones to kill him. They said, you're just a man and you're claiming to be God. So Jesus claimed to be God. And that did not sit well
With Jews, with the Pharisees.
with the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the day. And of course, anybody can claim to be God. You could claim to be God. I could claim to be God. But of course, that's where Easter comes in, because Jesus not only claimed to be God, but then after being crucified, 3 days later, he returns from the dead, and thus proves he is who he claimed to be.
So it's a combination of physically Romans, verbally Pharisees.
Yeah, they encouraged the crucifixion of Jesus, yes.
And okay, so then bring that interpretation to today.
Yeah.
On how that has been not miscommunicated.
AP, look at this. Monkey wrench weren't around then either. We have more proof. Yes. How did Jesus throw a monkey wrench into the Pharisees' rules? There were no monkey wrenches. We've got 3 decisive refutations of Christianity here in just the past couple minutes. Ha! You don't even see Lee Strobel trying to answer these.
But misunderstood today, because
Yes.
you see a lot of different arguments.
Yeah.
You know, where there's the animosity towards, well, let me tell you, it's really, the Jews killed him. No, the Pharisees killed. No, the Romans killed him. No, we killed them.
Yeah.
How has that misunderstanding turned into some of the challenges that we're seeing today when that debate comes up?
Yeah, it's inconceivable to me that any Christian could be anti-Semitic. Jesus was Jewish. Jesus' followers were Jewish. The Christian religion is an outflow of the Jewish religion. It is a fulfillment of the ancient prophecies that were made centuries before Jesus was born in Bethlehem.
AP's trying to contain himself to stop from freaking out and going off right now. How dare you say that? I already proved replacement yesterday.
Toward the Messiah, and Jesus fit those prophecies just like a fingerprint. I don't know how anybody who's a follower of Jesus could be anti-Semitic. It's not the Jewish people as a group who got together and said, let's kill Jesus. That's not what happened. There was a leadership at the time, these Pharisees and Sadducees, who were upset about his teachings and so forth, who instigated and pushed for his execution. The Romans went along with it and implemented the death penalty in his case. But it's inconceivable. When I see reports of anti-Semitism among people who claim to be Christians, I go, what are you talking about? What faith are you putting your trust in here? So, yeah.
What's messed up? He mentioned the Sadducees, Pharisees and Sadducees. Mike Licona, like king of super lame dad jokes. But when he used to give it, I hope he doesn't still do this, because it was like embarrassingly terrible. But when he would be giving a presentation back in the day on Christian belief and the resurrection and the Jewish beliefs about the resurrection at the time, he'd point out and he would say, and so you had the Sadducees, they didn't believe in the resurrection. That's why they were sad, you see, right? And so he would say that, and the whole crowd would like, oh, gosh, that is the dumbest joke ever. And then he would go, but the Pharisees, they believed in the resurrection, so they were fair, you see. And it's just like, seriously, after the Sadducee joke, after you saw how that went over, then you made it worse? What's crazy, though, is like, I heard Mike give that presentation over 20 years ago. I still can't hear or read the word Sadducee without thinking of that stupid joke. So maybe there's something, if you make like the worst joke ever, you're actually making things stick in people's minds. I don't know.
I think about it all the time. I think about it all the time. There is a thing to point out, though, which is that I kind of feel like I feel the need to point this out when the discussion comes up, and maybe there is something to do about it. But especially for people who want to go ahead and say it was the Jews, the Jews killed them. In the Gospel of John, for example, it often uses the words the Jews and basically the leadership of the Jews interchangeably. But when you look at the ones who are actually driving the will to have Jesus executed, to have Jesus crucified, it's not really the Pharisees who are pushing brutally toward his execution, toward his crucifixion. It's actually the Sadducees. It is the Sadducees who are the priestly class, who are in charge of the temple, who are in charge of the law and order. Caiaphas is a Sadducee.
Yeah, they were a minority, but they had some higher positions because they were friendlier towards the Romans. The Romans liked them better. The Pharisees were more likely, because they were more devout as far as Jewish law and so on, were more likely to have a problem with the Romans.
So the Pharisees are most often seen in the Gospels arguing with Jesus, very with passion, and that he talks to and that he kind of rebukes a lot. But it's actually the Sadducees in the end who push a lot toward his execution. And even after Jesus is crucified and rises, in the Acts of the Apostles, it is mostly not the Pharisees, it is the Sadducees who are once again all about persecuting and killing the followers of Jesus. You even see that the Pharisees at some point in Acts kind of speak against it and say, hey, how about we stop? How about we don't kill these guys? And the Sadducees say, no, we have to.
You can't make the Pharisees the good. You ever heard something called "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees"? He didn't say Sadducees.
I'm absolutely not saying that.
In your face. Stop trying to defend them.
Absolutely not saying that. I think the Pharisees were the main opponent here, and they were the main ones who condemned Jesus due to their beliefs. But it was the Sadducees themselves who basically drove all the violence against Jesus and his followers. And the Sadducees went extinct after the fall of the temple, because their role was with the temple. They were the leaders and the priests of the temple. When the temple fell, the Sadducees had no longer had any relevance, so they disappeared into history. And the Pharisees turned into the rabbinic Jews, which today turned into the Orthodox Jews. So those who primarily were behind all the violence and the killing of the people, of the Christians, were the Sadducees, and they died.
One of the most hilarious episodes in the Bible is when they bring Paul before the Pharisees and Sadducees for trial. And Paul looks, he sees the Sadducees, he sees the Pharisees, he says, I'm just here because I believe in the resurrection, guys. And then the Pharisees take his side and start flipping out on the Sadducees. Classic. Funny stuff.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Now, some of them may say, well, Lee, there's two types of the old school traditional Pharisees. The ones that were more, Jews that are more about the Torah, right? Where 25% to 30% of the Old Testament is the Torah, and, take the other 65, 70%, 75% is, the legalistic, the way they would structure it together because they were thinkers. So, okay, I don't have a problem with them, Lee. But I do have a problem with the modern day Jews who created their own Talmud and, whatever the 600 plus commandments that they have and the way they wrote it. What is the difference? Because I'm really trying to understand. It's not like these people that are, creating the argument against Jews and being, some people labeling them anti-Semites and all this. Yeah. It's not like they're dumb. These are not dumb people. These are very well-read, educated.
Well, some of them are dumb. But yes, he's right. There are some very well-educated people who are going there. So what is the context for you specifically as an investigative journalist? Yeah. What is the difference between the old school, the Torah type Jews that some people look at versus the new modern day, the Talmud? What's the difference?
Well, there were 600 some odd commandments that were added to the Jewish scripture.
By Jews.
By Pharisees, by the leadership of the day and so forth, and created this very much works-driven culture. And it was virtually impossible for anybody to fulfill all of these commands and to stay on the straight and narrow, given all these requirements that were added to the basic law, the 10 Commandments that God had.
Someone just asked, let's see. I'm guessing the answer for AP is no. But question was, Dawood and AP, do you watch the movie of Lee Strobel? It is good. Yes, I watched it. That was like
No, I haven't.
you were an atheist at the time. I watched. I did a review back then, and I did an impersonation of Lee Strobel interviewing Gary Habermas and William Lane Craig, and it was funny because it was loosely based on a fake audio debate me and Nabil had scripted, but we never recorded. Because Nabil could do like world champion, like the parody of like the Indian guy, like Apu from The Simpsons and so on. Nabil could crush that. He could do the perfect accent. He didn't do it normally because he didn't want to upset people. But the debate was going to be. Oh yeah, I remember why. Lee Strobel used to do a show called Faith Under Fire, and he would have like Mike Licona debating Shabir Ali or William Lane Craig debating some atheist or something like this. He would have these debates on the show. So they actually had a debate TV show back then. When this is before YouTube, but anyway, they had a debate show back then, Faith Under Fire, and me and Nabil we scripted out a fake audio debate, and it was going to be Lee Strobel moderating a debate between William Lane Craig and the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And we didn't know what he sounded like, but we were going to make him sound like, the stereotypical 7-Eleven guy. Anyway, we scripted this thing out. We never recorded it. At least he may have recorded it, and I may have never finished recording my parts. But yeah, the Maharishi Mahesh. So William Lane Craig lays out his facts for the resurrection, and then Maharishi Mahesh Yogi responds, we Hindus have no problem believing in the resurrection, provided you believe Jesus came back as a cow, right? And then, but the joke is that Craig actually starts arguing like William Lane Craig against this theory. And he says, well, Lee, this is what scholars refer to as the holy cow argument, right? And but we acted like it was really an actual scholarly position. And it's according to this theory, when Jesus' followers showed up at the tomb and found it empty, they exclaimed, "Holy cow!" But Hindu scholars interpreted this literally to mean that he had actually returned as a cow. And then, so anyway, we scripted out this. But anyway, I did a couple of the clips from the joke that we had in my review of the movie. But yeah, it was a good movie. So if you haven't seen it, good movie. Lee Strobel, Case for Christ.
Based.
Very based.
Provided for the Jewish people.
Got it. So, okay. So then,
I have a problem.
So then if we go
What?
I have a problem with what both of them are saying here, which is they both kind of made it sound like Jews invented new commandments that were given, and you also said that they created this work-based commandment religion and all that. I mean, I have an issue with that, which is that of course you can have the Christian.
Yeah, that whole system seems to be like it's clear where that came from, right?
I mean, all the commandments. So they have 613 commandments, and all of those are simply things that God says you must do. So they take everything that you must do, and thereby make a list of 613 commandments. That's basically what Jews did. And you could also say that kind of came in the vacuum of losing the temple, and then thereby creating, organizing the religion and everything properly. But wasn't Judaism, or wasn't the Old Testament supposed to be very, very much work-based to begin with and law-based to begin with? And then Christianity, or Christ, is the one with whom the burden of the law is lifted, and you have faith in him to be saved. So I don't entirely understand the connotations of what they are saying here.
Yeah, I get the gist of what they're saying, but yeah, I disagree with their little back and forth there on some things. So what's relevant for PBD is, okay, Jews of first century, you had the different Jewish groups of the first century and some of those who are following Jesus. And so how can you be anti-Semitic? But Judaism also developed into something else, which you could be opposed to without opposing, like, the followers of Jesus and stuff like that, just for being Jews and so on. But yeah, when they were saying it there, it sounded like that. It almost sounded like these laws were invented with the Talmud. It's like, no, that's the Torah. And what happens with the New Testament is, like Paul, like the author of the Hebrews, he's pointing out that these things are like a shadow and so on. And then Paul points out that no, even if you go back to Abraham, it was still by faith. It wasn't by works, and it's never been about works, even in the Old Testament and so on. So you could say that people eventually became they became glued to what's not the most important thing that they should have been glued to, or something like that, and that kind of took off, something along those lines. But yeah, we both.
Further, and I know this is like a heavy topic right off the bat to get into, is who benefits from this division that you see, whether it's those who are like, what are you talking about? Jews are our friends. Muslims. If I have to choose between Jews and, Jesus was a Jew, like that argument you just made earlier. Yeah. I'm going to choose the Jews over knowing what Islam wants to do and what the Islamification of the world and Muslims book tell them to do. I'm going to side with these guys. Yeah. And then the other side, no, but you guys are naive. You don't even understand. Israel owns the world. Jews, Bibi runs the world.
That's actually a good description of the debate, right? It's, hey, I'm looking at Jews. I'm looking at what Muslims are telling me they're going to do. I'm going to side with the Jews in that discussion. No, but what you don't realize is the Jews actually control everything. They're just really, really smart at covering it up. And that's why it takes all these super, brilliant people like Nick Fuentes and stuff to spot the Jewish control of everything in the entire world. And it looks to you like Islam's the bigger problem and that's what the Jews want you to think, so that you side with them, even though they're really in charge of everything.
You guys are such low level. You don't know what's going on here. What is the who is benefiting the most from seeing this divide taking place today, both theologically, politically, benefiting from it, specifically on social media in America? Yeah. Who benefits the most?
Well, certainly. Little side note: it is weird to be asking Lee Strobel about this, right? Like it's not like you've got the author of The Case for Christ, The Case for a Creator, The Case for Faith, his new stuff, 40 books and stuff. What do you think about this battle over the Jews?
From social media.
Candace, what do you
tell us about Candace Owens right now? And what about Tucker?
We have some people on social media who make all kinds of allegations against the Jewish people who are making millions of dollars in doing that.
Such as who? Who are you?
I don't want to name names because I'm not that.
Are the names that I'm thinking about, or some of the
probably,
names?
Probably.
Okay. All right.
And so I go, is there an...
They don't want to name the names. Okay, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, all these people. You could go down the list. You could go down the list here. Where's that comment? Where'd it go? Oh, yeah, here we go. The Jews have super intelligent and cunning agents like Malik. Sucks for all of you who don't know who Malik is if you're here for the first time or something like this. But yes, Malik has been accused of being a Mossad agent and being sent to destroy Da'wah from within.
Here? Yeah, maybe.
So you think first one is prophet mode?
Possibly. Okay. And then, honestly, if indeed Jesus is the unique Son of God who came through the Jewish line, if indeed Christianity is a fulfillment of the Jewish teaching.
Whoa, this is interesting here. This is actually interesting here. I want AP here for this part, guys. I'll take a couple of super chats real quick while we wait for AP to get back, because I'd be interested in him hearing this theory. I recall listening to this part. It was interesting. Okay, so Jonathan earlier, we read part 1 of 3, but then he posted parts 2 and 3. So in Quebec, a law passed against street prayer, going against the Rights and Freedoms Charter because they can't apply the laws already in place. remove those that are blocking streets and praying on church land to flex, so everyone except the seculars can pray in public. Everyone except the seculars can pray in public, telling their own dogmas and using force to uphold it all. What about the beam in the eye? Was it on purpose to remove more of the Christian values or cowardice? I don't know. I don't know enough about that. I've seen some things about the law and stuff up there, but no, we'll have to check that out at some point, because that is it is interesting, the interactions you're going to have with people who use certain freedoms to flex for a system that is calling to subjugate people and so on. And then, like, how do you interact with that? And one of the things you have to do is, if people are using this freedom for this purpose, maybe we have to take away the freedom. Creepy stuff. Creepy stuff. And we already read this. Easter address isn't normally done by the monarch. And then I just witnessed around 20 high-speed missiles being intercepted overhead, moving at extreme velocity, and somehow there were 0 injuries and no damage. Incredible outcome. That is good news. How many times I need apologize to become apologist? Yeah, for anyone who... It's weird that this somehow comes... I assume Paul's joking here. But it's weird how you'll have churches posting, we don't do apologetics because we're not apologizing for the gospel. It's like, that's not what apologetics means. Apologetics is completely biblical. Yeah, 1 Peter 3:15, guys, where Peter says that commands people to always be ready to give a defense. The Greek for defense there is apologion. It was a legal term. It was for a defense in court. So the case comes and someone lays out their case, and what is the defense of your client? What is the defense of your client? That was called the apologion. And so Christians used it. Christians used it to talk about giving a defense for what they believe against accusations, saying, "Hey, you believe in a bunch of stupid stuff." Well, your apology is your defense of what you believe. So it's not the same thing as what we mean now, apologizing. And I've mentioned before, like, if you read the apology of Plato, which is Socrates in court, that dude's apologizing for nothing. He annoys them so much they sentence him to death. He did not need to be sentenced to death. He could have had a different tone and said different things and would not have been sentenced to death, but he annoyed the crap out of them. He was defending his actions as right. So that is the correct meaning of apology. Hey, AP, I wanted to wait to continue until you got back, because there's this interesting section right here where he asks Lee about why. What's the real reason for the blaming Jews for everything? And Lee says, well, part of it is for profit. People can profit off it. But then he goes into like a spiritual understanding of it. Anyway, check this out.
That I'm thinking about, or
I got a call from Israel. I had to take it quickly. They asked me to be more defensive of Jews when it comes up. So,
well, look, I've got shekels right here. So.
Some of the
probably.
Okay. All right.
And so I go, is there an incentive here? Yeah, maybe.
So you think first one is profit mode?
Possibly.
Okay.
And then, honestly, if indeed Jesus is the unique Son of God who came through the Jewish line, if indeed Christianity is a fulfillment of the Jewish teachings and the Old Testament becomes fulfilled in Jesus and so forth, if you are Satan, wouldn't you love to create a divide? Wouldn't you love to attack the root of Christianity, which is Judaism? Yeah, I think you would. So I think, honestly, I just wrote this book called Seeing the Supernatural. Jesus was an exorcist. Jesus believed in demons. Jesus believed in Satan. He encountered Satan. And so do I believe that he might have a role in terms of fanning the flames of anti-Semitism? Yeah, I think he does. So
anyway, I've pointing that out because I've mentioned before, there seems to be something demonic with the obsession over Jews. And you think, what? Well, why would there be like this demonic attack on these? The gospel's already come, so why this obsession? And he Lee there suggests it's demonic because you want to basically destroy the Jewish background of things, and then of course people don't understand the gospel. Either.
Remember, it's one of the first things. I think it might have been the first thing that I said to you that was kind of as an atheist, that was kind of religious sounding when we were in Israel and we were on the flight back. I told you that the contrast between how these people, the Jews, and how the people of Israel are, and how people in the world talk about them, it almost seems like there's something more to it. So it almost seems like there's something else, something evil going on out there that I cannot properly explain. That was my first attempt at explaining that I feel like it is more than simply human interactions. There's something spiritual going on. That was my impression in Israel, or on the way back from Israel. It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. So then let's just say if I'm sitting down with somebody who once was a Christian, who supporters of, Israel or Jews and didn't have the anti-Semitic positions that they have.
Yeah.
And I want to go out there and serve them. I want to go out there and, speak to them about maybe a different position to be thinking about. What angles would I take with them?
Oh, golly. I always look at the affirmative side,
golly?
which is what is the evidence that Christianity is true? What is the evidence that Jesus is who he claimed to be? I want to make that case because, you can get into arguments about, okay, let's contrast Islam and Christianity and things like that. But ultimately, I think as someone who started as an atheist, trained in journalism and law, I was looking for what is the evidence? What's the corroboration? How do I know this is true? So if Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, as I mentioned earlier, he did clearly, how do I know he proved it? By returning from the dead. What is the evidence historically that Jesus really returned from the dead? Because if that is true, then he is who he claimed to be, and I ought to put my chips in that pot, right? I ought to go all in Christianity.
And what was that moment for you? Because if you don't mind sharing your own testimony,
Sure.
because your wife came.
That's kind of interesting. So he's like, hey, whatever the issue is, I think I'm going to turn it to a discussion of the resurrection because I think that answers things. And so, anyway.
You and you guys have been together since you were 18, 9 years old. I think it's good for the audience to hear from you.
Yeah. I mean, I met my wife when we were 14, got married at 19 and 20. And I was an atheist. I lived a very immoral, drunken, profane, narcissistic, self-destructive, in many ways kind of life. I was successful.
Someone said Ned Flanders because he said golly.
Went to Yale Law School, was legal editor of the Chicago Tribune, won major awards for investigative reporting. So people would look at that and think, oh man, this guy's got it together. They didn't see the other side. I was literally drunk in the snow in an alley on Saturday night. And my wife comes up to me one day and gives me the worst news any atheist husband could get. She said, I've decided to become a Christian. And honestly, first word through my mind, divorce. I was going to
Really?
Oh, yeah, I was going to I didn't want to be married to a Christian.
Now, were both of you guys married? You were atheists, both of you?
No, she was agnostic.
Okay.
She didn't know what to believe. She's kind of spiritual neutral. She meets a neighbor who's a Christian nurse, shares Jesus with her, brings her to church, and she checks things out herself and comes and gives me the news that she's become a Christian.
Hey, seriously, someone needs to go back and find that nurse, man. That nurse who preached to Lee Strobel's wife, who then annoyed him enough to investigate Christianity, who then wrote the case for faith.
And I thought, what's going to happen? She's going to turn into some holier-than-thou person who's going to look down on me and my drinking, and she wouldn't like my friends anymore, and it's just going to be trouble. How are we going to make decisions about how we spend our money and how we spend our time? We're going to have this divide in our marriage.
If I want to spend all my money on booze, and she's going to want to give it all to the church, and I'll have no money.
So I thought, I'm just going to walk out. But then I thought, wait a minute. What if I could rescue her from this cult that she's gotten involved in? How would I do that? Oh, I know. All I got to do is disprove the resurrection of Jesus.
Smart.
Because Jesus clearly, as I said earlier, made messianic divine claims about himself. And the resurrection proved, supposedly, that he is who he claimed to be. So I thought, you know what, give me a long weekend, and I can disprove the resurrection. Dead people don't come back to life. That just doesn't happen. So I thought, I'm trained in this stuff. I can investigate the evidence. So I started to do that. And I used my journalism training, my legal training. It took me 2 years to delve into the minutia of the historical data concerning the death and resurrection of Jesus until November the 8th of 1981. And I said to myself, I've been doing this 2 years. The evidence is in. A good jury reaches a verdict. So I got all the data I gathered. Back then, this is before the internet, so it's a microfilm.
No ChatGPT, no language learning models, no Google.
No Google, no.
So you're going to the library to do this?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to, I remember.
You young people don't even remember. He's right. If you want to look up a newspaper, you did not go to a website to look. You had to go to the library. If you wanted some story that you looked up and you said, oh, there was a New York Times article on this, you went to a library and they would have recent issues of the New York Times and so on, but you had to go to the New York Times microfilm section and look up the appropriate year, and then you had to find the date, and then you had to go, and it's just little tiny pictures of the thing, and then you had to put them in this machine, and then you look down in here, and then you have to scroll through the entire thing and find the article you're looking for. Anyway, there was something good about that, because as you don't have to go out and you don't have to go out and seek it. It's just just tossed in your face all the time. You kind of lose the ability to, I don't know. There was something positive about having to go actually do research, as opposed to just having limitless information at your fingertips and still being stupid.
Once I requested an interlibrary loan at the Chicago Library because I was trying to find this obscure book written by one of the founders of Harvard Law School who had become a Christian in the 1800s or whatever. And 6 months later, I get a phone call. We found your book. Wow. That's what it took. I mean, that's why it took me 2 years.
Talk about investigative journalism.
I delved into this stuff and into microfilm and libraries and museums and so forth, interviewing scholars and experts until November the 8th of 81, when I realized any good juror reaches a verdict. And the evidence was in. I need to reach a verdict. And I looked at the data concerning the resurrection. It is fascinating how much that. I'll tell you a little story. There was a guy named Sir Lionel Luckhoo. Sir Lionel is the most successful defense attorney in the world. He was in the Guinness Book of World Records. Why? Because he won 245 murder trials in a row.
This guy right here?
That's him.
Okay.
A guy won 245 murder trials in a row.
Based.
That's people who are charged with murder. 245 in a row he won. That's pretty. Lionel Luckhoo. Interesting fellow here.
245 murder trials in a row. Nobody's ever done that. As a defense attorney, either before the jury or on appeal.
Okay.
And when I was a student at Yale Law School, he was my hero. Because I figured this guy must understand evidence.
He's an atheist.
He was a skeptic about the resurrection. Didn't believe the resurrection occurred. And I was an atheist, so I agreed with him. And he was knighted twice by Queen Elizabeth. He became a member of the Supreme Court of his country. Yeah. So brilliant guy. But he didn't believe in the resurrection. Till somebody came to him one day and said, Sir Lionel, you're the greatest lawyer in the world. Have you ever taken your monumental legal skill and applied it to the historical record of the resurrection and come to an informed verdict on whether Jesus rose from the dead? He said, no, I haven't, but I will. So he spent years doing what I ended up doing, investigating the evidence. And I'll recite to you one sentence he wrote that summarized his conclusion. He says, I say unequivocally that the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ is so overwhelming that it compels acceptance by proof, which leaves absolutely no room for doubt.
You hear that, atheists? How many murder trials in a row have you won? Oh, 0? How many awesome articles for the Chicago Tribune have you written? Oh, don't know how to do investigative journalism. We just believe everything that Richard Dawkins says because him smart. My goodness.
This from the greatest legal mind, I
the
think.
only true prophet.
in practical sense in history. By the way, I told that story in California. I moved to California in the year 2000 to be a teaching pastor at a church. And a woman came up to me afterwards. She said, "Hey, I'm your new neighbor. We haven't met yet, but you just bought a house down the block." I said, "Oh, that's great. Good to meet you." She said, "Yeah, one other thing." I said, "What?" She said, "I'm Sir Lionel's sister."
Stop.
Yes. And we
Your neighbor is a sister.
Yeah,
Was
that's
she a
right.
devout Christian at that time?
Oh, yeah. And she actually showed me his private papers where he had done his
Oh, my
investigation.
God.
I know. Can you believe that? What are
did
the
you find?
odds of
What did you find when you're going through it?
Guys, isn't that crazy? So Lee ends up, as part of his investigation of the resurrection and so on, studies this guy who had already done it, used his various lawyering abilities and so on when he was challenged to investigate it, concludes that Jesus rose from the dead. Lee studies all that stuff, puts it in his book, moves, and then, hey, I'm his sister. You want to check out his papers when he was doing his research? That's crazy, man. That'd be awesome.
It was ultimately a confirmation of what I discovered in my investigation. Can I summarize the evidence for you real quick? 4 words that begin with the letter E to summarize the evidence for the resurrection. This
Evolution.
is what brought me from atheism to faith. The first E stands for execution, that Jesus was truly dead after being crucified.
Okay.
There
You hear that, Muslims? He's talking about Jesus' execution. You think Jesus wasn't executed. Let's hear what the actual evidence is.
is no record anywhere of anyone ever surviving a full Roman crucifixion. In fact, this is not controversial.
Hey, little side note there, because dumb people always go, no, there was a guy who survived crucifixion. He said no one ever survived a full Roman crucifixion. Right? Get it right. You did have Josephus, who switched sides during the Jewish-Roman War and asked that three of his friends who had just been crucified be pardoned and so on. And so they did. They took those guys down from their crucifixion and gave them the best medical care. And 2 of them died anyway. 1 survived. But that was the guy they were trying to make survive. That's the only guy we have a record of ever surviving crucifixion. And that's point is, that was not a full crucifixion. That was them trying to rescue a guy. Anyway, so the point is, Muslims don't use that.
Record anywhere of anyone ever surviving a full Roman crucifixion. In fact, this is not controversial among even atheist scholars, because when you study ancient history, we're lucky if we have one good source to confirm a fact, or maybe 2 good sources. So if you have Alexander the Great, and we believe certain things about his life, well, dig down.
Yes, we believe he was a devout Muslim prophet who found the place where the sun sets, as the Holy Quran declares.
We know, well, it turns out it's 1 source, maybe 2 sources. And yet for the death of Jesus, we not only have multiple sources in the documents of the New Testament, we got 5 ancient sources outside the Bible confirming his execution. This is so well established of an historical fact, you could get laughed out of a major academic institution if you go in and claim he somehow survived the crucifixion. In fact,
Or that God just tricked everyone into thinking that he died by crucifixion. Yeah, try that one in a history class, Muslims. You better be at Al-Azhar University trying that, because not going to fly well anywhere else.
get this, no less of a source in the Journal of the American Medical Association, a secular, peer-reviewed medical scientific journal, carried an investigation into the death of Jesus. And this was their conclusion, quote, "Clearly, the weight of the historical and medical evidence indicates that Jesus was dead even before the wound to his side was inflicted." Even the atheist historian Gerd Ludemann says it's indisputable that Jesus was dead. First E, execution, he's dead. Second E, early accounts. In other words, we have early reports.
Guys, these are the things that are just like, you have the information that you want to share, and then it's like, how do you keep it organized in your head if you're talking to someone? He's doing that for you. So he's giving you a way to keep the information organized in your head. He just said the first E, so in the 4 E's, which would have been like Malik's report card in any grade that he was ever in. But anyway, you've got the 4 E's. So the first one is execution, and then the next one, early.
First E, execution, he's dead. Second E, early accounts.
Early accounts.
In other words, we have early reports that come very quickly after the crucifixion that he rose from the dead. Why is that important? Because I used to think, like a lot of skeptics, that the resurrection was a legend. And I knew it took time for legend to develop in the ancient world. So I figured 100, 150, 200 years after the life of Jesus, legends were invented, and that's where the idea came from.
Hey, interesting. So you have the legend explanation. So anyway, we know that Christians have believed in Jesus' resurrection. So that's a fact. Christians believe in Jesus' resurrection. So if you want to explain that and say that they're wrong, you want to explain that, you would explain how they arrived at the belief that Jesus rose from the dead without him actually rising from the dead. Where'd they get the idea? Where'd they get that idea from? So one path is legend. In other words, the early Christians, they just like Jesus and he died, and then, maybe them had some sort of feeling like, I feel like he's okay. And then the next generation comes along and they're like, oh yeah, that generation, they had visions of him after he died, and, of him trying to comfort them and stuff. They had visions. And then the next generation comes along, and then the next generation, they say, he actually appeared to them as a ghost. He was going around as a ghost. And then the next generation comes along and says, no, he actually appeared to them in a physical form. So that would be development as legend. That wasn't my theory when I was an atheist. I just thought the disciples made it up. The disciples, their guy died, and so they made up a story to keep his message going, and they made up a story about him rising from the dead. That doesn't actually work, because these guys endured some horrible, horrible things, including in multiple cases being executed. And people who are making something up probably wouldn't be willing to endure persecution and death for it. In other words, they had to believe it. You can die for something that you believe in and be wrong about what you believe in, but you're not going to die for something that you made up. So anyway, my theory was stupid, but the legendary development doesn't work either, because the story is too early. In other words, the claim that Jesus rose from the dead, that doesn't arise a century later, or 80 years later, or 50 years later, or even 10 years later. It's within 2 years that we can actually trace it to.
Guess what? We have preserved for us a creed of the earliest church. The first Christians had a creedal statement based on facts that they knew to be true, based on eyewitness accounts that summarized their convictions. It said Jesus died. Why? For our sins. He was buried. On the third day, he rose again, and then has the specific names of individuals and groups of people who encountered the resurrected Jesus, including 500 people at once. Well, guess what? Historians have been able to date that creed. So, for instance, one of the great historians, James D.G. Dunn of England, one of the greatest historians of our time, dated that creed, and he says we can be entirely confident that that creed was formulated within months of the death of Jesus.
Within James D.G. Dunn said that the creed was formulated within months of Jesus' crucifixion. So you have very common for people to say within 6 months, within 2 years, or something like that. Or James D.G. Dunn saying within months and so on. I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen, guys. I'll go ahead and put the creed up on the screen. It's 1 Corinthians 15, right? So this is Paul writing in the 50s to the Church of Corinth, right? And Paul is talking about when he had visited them previously and the message that he had delivered to them. And then he gives a creed that he had also received. In other words, he says, hey, so he's writing in the 50s. So you're talking 20 years later, 20 years after the crucifixion. He writes this creed, and he talks about something that he had shared with them when he visited them previously, but he says that he got it. He got it earlier than that. He got it. So he gets this from the apostles when he visits the apostles, which means that the apostles already had this formulated as a creed here. So anyway, it says, we'll go ahead and start at verse 1. Now I would remind you, brothers, of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, in which you stand, and by which you are being saved, if you hold fast to the word I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received. So he delivered to them, when he visited them previously, what he also received. That Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, that's Peter, then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles. Last of all, as to one untimely born, he appeared also to me. For I am the least of the apostles, unworthy to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace toward me was not in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, though it was not I, but the grace of God that is with me. Whether then it was I or they, so we preach, and so you believe. Verse 11 there is also important, right? He's saying the other apostles had the exact same message as him. What?
Wait a minute. So you're saying that they made a creed that he received that was not in Scripture?
It's right here in Scripture.
Yeah, but it became Scripture here, but so it was not Scripture. But they made a creed. They established a creed.
There you go. This is the proof of the Catholic Church, everybody.
That people were saying, which is not literally taken from Scripture. So people were making a creed based on things that happened.
Mm-hmm. And it ended up as Scripture. That's how you know it's good stuff. Yep, guys, so cool stuff there, cool stuff in that creed. And again, so that goes back, so at the very latest, even if you wanted to think that Paul was making this up and the church in Corinth had no clue what he's talking about, like, what? You didn't say that, you just made this up. Okay, that would already it's in the 50s, right? Jesus died, was buried, and appeared to all these guys. But Paul says, this is what I told you before. So now it's even earlier. And he says that's what he received. So it's long before he ever went to that church. He's receiving this creed. When does he receive this? Only a couple possibilities. Almost everyone says this is what he received from the apostles. When you read in Galatians 1 and 2 that he went up and visited the apostles. Only thing else that would work is like he received it right after he converted, and this would have been the first Christians he was talking to or something like that. But anyway, very early material. And what it doesn't matter. You could think that people were lying or they were wrong or something like that. It means it wasn't a later legendary development. This was very early in Christianity. The earliest Christians, the earliest level of Christians were proclaiming Jesus' death, burial, resurrection, and appearances to a number of his followers. So legend theory, that it's idiotic. It doesn't work. You want an explanation, come up with a better explanation. Legend, it doesn't work. So if you're they could have come out 100 years later, you sound like an idiot. But maybe you didn't know any of this, and so you might not have been an idiot. You might just have not known any better. Okay, now you know. So if you still maintain that position, then something wrong with you.
Month. That's historical gold. That's far too quick to be a legend. The great historian A.N. Sherwin-White of Oxford and Cambridge said the passage of 2 generations of time is not even enough for legend to grow up and wipe out a solid core of historical truth. So we got a news flash, and it's not the only early report we got. We got others in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the book of Acts, all that date back so early they were circulating during the lifetimes of Jesus' contemporaries who would have disputed the claims if they had been wrong. So that's the second E, is early accounts. The third
execution, early accounts. That's 2 E's. Next.
E stands for an empty. We have an empty tomb.
Empty tomb.
And what's interesting about that is even the enemies of Jesus admitted the tomb was empty. Everybody conceded the tomb was empty. How do we know? Because we know from sources inside and outside the New Testament that when the disciples began proclaiming that Jesus had risen, what the enemies of Jesus said was, the disciples stole the body. Now think about that. They're conceding the tomb is empty. They're trying to explain how it got empty. So everybody's conceding the tomb is empty. That's not the issue of history. The issue of history really is how did it get empty. Romans weren't about to steal the body. They wanted Jesus dead. Religious leaders of the day weren't about to steal the body. They wanted Jesus to stay dead. The disciples weren't about to steal the body. I found 7 ancient sources, 6 of them outside the Bible, that said that the disciples lived lives of deprivation and suffering as a result of their proclamation that Jesus had risen. They were willing to die for it. Why? Because they heard in Sunday school he'd risen from the dead and proved he's the Son of God? No, because they were there. Of all human beings who've ever lived, they were in a position to know for a fact whether he returned from the dead or not. They touched him, they talked with him, they ate with him. And knowing the truth, they were even willing to die for it. Then finally,
So guys, You want to get your mind around that point? So Christians obviously believe that the tomb of Jesus turned up empty, right? Do we have good evidence that there was an empty tomb? Well, no, it's just what the Bible said. Well, here's the issue. We know about a very early first century response to the Christian proclamation about Jesus rising from the dead and leaving the tomb. The earliest response that we have a record of is, no, he didn't walk out of the tomb. You guys went and stole his body. Notice that's called enemy attestation. Your enemies are admitting something. They just admitted something, right? The earliest response was not, what are you talking about? There's no empty tomb. What are you talking about? It's, no, you guys stole the body. That's why the tomb is empty. What's the acknowledgement? It means they all understand the tomb came up empty, right? They all understand this. And that's why even the opposition is trying to explain that. They're trying to explain it by saying, you guys stole the body. That's why the tomb is empty. What's the admission? They're admitting that the tomb was empty. So both sides agree that the tomb was empty. And so the question is, do you believe that? You believe the disciples stole the body? Well, that would have been something along the lines of my theory. I wasn't even thinking about them stealing the body. I was just thinking about them making up a story about the resurrection. But did these guys go in there, steal the body, and make up a resurrection story? Okay, well, why did they endure persecution and death to defend something they just knew they were making up? So anyway, turns out to be a lame theory, a lame response, just like legend theory.
Fourth E stands for
While this is going on in the chat, there is this whole discussion going on about Mary and the church.
Yeah, I saw that over there. No, we have to talk about Mary the entire time. We don't even care about the resurrection.
Well, it was brought up by Protestants, but it's a nice discussion. So not a bad one.
Hey, the important issue on the day of the resurrection is not the resurrection. We have to argue about Mary.
He returned from the dead or not. They touched him. They talked with him. They ate with him. And knowing the truth, they were even willing to die for it. Then finally, the fourth E stands for the word eyewitnesses. Remember I said earlier, we're lucky in ancient history. If we have a fact we believe to be true, and we dig down, we find one source, maybe two sources. There are 9 ancient sources inside and outside the New Testament confirming and corroborating the conviction of the disciples that they encountered the risen Jesus. That is an avalanche of historical data.
So we have an avalanche of historical data. Muslims have an avalanche of apostasy.
And so it was based on that kind of evidence that I sat as an atheist and said, wait a minute. If I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to follow the evidence wherever it points, which is what I was always taught to do, then I have to conclude that Jesus didn't just claim to be God. He backed up that claim by returning from the dead.
Now, when you're saying 9 eyewitnesses, I'm assuming this is it, right? Paul, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts of Apostles. That's what you're talking about with the 9 witnesses.
I'm talking about 9 sources. 9 sources, right. So the first one is the creed that I mentioned.
Yep.
By the way, the historical credentials of that creed are so strong that one of the few Jewish New Testament scholars, Pinchas Lapid, said it may be taken as a statement of eyewitnesses. So you got the creed. You've got Paul.
In other words, guys, when you read that Jesus died, he was buried, and then he rose, and he appeared to Peter, the 12, and 500, and so on, to James, and eventually to Paul, and so on. Keep in mind, Paul would not have been part of the creed. He says, as to one untimely born, he appeared to me also. That wouldn't have been part of the creed. But if Paul receives this from the apostles in Jerusalem, and they're the ones who formulate the creed, keep in mind that's how you would pass information on back then, right? You obviously don't have the internet. You don't even have newspapers at this point, and so on. So how do you get information across? Well, if you want Christians and new converts and so on to be able to pick something up quickly and to be able to memorize something, so that someone asks, hey, what do you guys believe? You want to give them something that they can memorize and learn and then share with others. You come up with some sort of creed. And this continued for a long time, right? People still memorize like the Nicene Creed and so on. Well, This is an early, very early Christian creed. So if Paul's getting this from the apostles, and it talks about the apostles, Jesus appearing to the apostles, that's why he's pointing out even a Jewish scholar, Pincus Lapide, said that's eyewitness testimony.
Paul, of course, said personally that he encountered the risen Christ. And that's how he was Saul of Tarsus, a persecutor of Christians. He encounters Jesus risen. He becomes the Apostle Paul. He becomes friends with Peter, James, and John and some of the other disciples. And Paul says in 1 Corinthians, he says, whether it's I or they, this is what we preach. In other words, we're all saying we encountered the resurrected Jesus. Then third, we have Peter in the book of Acts, who gets up and says, this Jesus, God raised from the dead, to which we're all witnesses. And 3,000 people said, we know you're telling the truth. What do we do? They repent, and the church is born. And then we have the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who I believe have historical credentials that give them incredible credibility. They are ancient biographies. But then we have two sources outside the Bible. This is fascinating. We have people who sat under the teachings of the eyewitnesses themselves. So, for instance, we have Clement. Clement was ordained by Peter himself, Peter, the eyewitness. And he wrote a letter to the church in Corinth, right there in the first century. And he said, why, I'm paraphrasing, but he said basically, why do the apostles have such courage and such conviction that Jesus, because of the resurrection, because it happened, because they knew it happened. And then Polycarp. Polycarp was appointed by John himself to be the bishop at Smyrna. And Polycarp wrote a letter to the church in Philippi, in which he mentions the resurrection no fewer than 5 times. And he says that the apostles did not value this present world because God had died for them. He'd opened the door to eternity from them. Jesus returned from the dead and proved he is who he claimed to be. So
Little side note there, for Muslims who are obsessed with isnad and so on and the chain of transmission, you've got letter from Clement of Rome, who knew Peter, and you've got Polycarp, who knew John. And they're saying the exact same things as Peter and John.
this is 9 ancient sources. That's a lot.
It's very powerful. But now going back with you,
Yeah.
Your parents, what were your parents?
Great question. My parents were
Clement was very
Christians.
based. Clement was very, very based.
That was pretty standard back then, AP.
He was very based.
It's pretty standard for these guys to be based. They could have even called him Clement the Based, but they didn't use that word back then. If that word had been around back then, they would have called him Clement the Based.
You know what's also funny about him? That he was the Bishop of Rome, so
I don't know why that's funny.
which was very based.
of a Lutheran church. But very interesting question. I had a very difficult relationship with my dad. My parents had 3 kids in a row. My dad was very involved with their lives, loved it, and then they were done. And then many years passed, and oops, my mom found herself pregnant with me. And I think that was the seed. In fact, my mom told me on her deathbed, because I asked her about it. He said, yeah, it was not happy news when your dad learned that I was pregnant. And so I had a very difficult... He was kind of done with it. He wanted to go off and play golf and do all this stuff. He did the parent thing. He was kind of done. And oops, now this comes along later. And
We had child number 5 after we were almost completely convinced we were done and too old and stuff. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, baby number 5 comes along. So yes, now we were happy. He's an awesome kid and stuff like that. But it was like, oh my goodness, I thought we were going to be like, kids are going to be moving on here after a while and stuff. And now we've got, with me, it was actually thinking, crap, do I need to live longer? Do I need to live longer to be around for like his graduation and stuff? Because I really was not expecting to live very long and so on. It's like, do I need to actually try to live longer now?
Based.
Very based. All right, we're going to check out this little part and then we'll wrap it
Age
up.
difference between the youngest, oldest of you versus you?
I think it's 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
And then the oldest?
The oldest would be 10 years.
10 years older than you.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so, but here's what's interesting. Studies have been done into the great atheists of history. So there's a guy who's a professor at New York University. He did this PhD project.
Paul Vitz.
He looked at the famous atheists of history, Camus, Sartre, Nietzsche, Freud, Voltaire, Wells, Feuerbach, O'Hare. He looked at every single one of them. Had a father who died when they were young, who divorced their mother when they were young, or with whom they had a very difficult relationship. And Freud pointed out the implication is if your earthly father has hurt you or disappointed you in some way, you don't want to know anything about a heavenly father. He's only going to be worse. So you have this barrier between you and God. You have excuses not to find God. And
So it was divorced mother, died young. What
Yes.
was the third one?
or terrible relationship, very difficult relationship.
So you didn't have a relationship with your dad.
I had a relationship, but it was very, very difficult.
Got
I
it.
remember
Little side note, guys. Interesting book, good to read. But yeah, Paul Vitz did that research in response to people claiming that theists only believe in God because they have daddy issues and they need to believe in some father figure. And so he actually says, well, let me go ahead and research the most prominent defenders of theism and the most prominent critics of theism over the past few centuries, and actually see what relationships were with their fathers and what kind of daddy issues they have. And with one exception, the major defenders of theism over the past couple centuries, with one exception, that's Kierkegaard, but with one exception, they all had close relationships with a father figure that they respected. And with the atheists, like across the board, they all, as he pointed out, they either had a father who abandoned them, a father who was abusive, something like that, or someone who just died when they were too young, and so on. But anyway, so he pointed out, he's like, okay, if you want to point a finger at daddy issues, you guys got daddy issues too. Except your guys are negative daddy issues and theirs are positive daddy issues. So just be accurate about what you're saying here. Interesting.
It's kind of funny that.
But it's funny because he's like, you guys brought it up. I just did the research to see what's actually going on here.
It is interesting that he just cited Sigmund Freud, who himself was a diehard atheist. He called himself a godless Jew.
You see, this is the proof that the truth are godless.
And he had no interest in God, but he's the one who did point out such a thing, that people who have a bad relationship with their fathers are less likely to believe or to embrace the Heavenly Father or believe in God. Interesting.
he told me on the eve of my high school graduation, he looked at me, we had a big argument.
This is messed up.
As
I
usual.
saw this
And he
earlier.
looked at me and said, I don't have enough love for you to fill my little finger.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
So it was,
His dad said to him at his graduation, I don't have enough love for you to fill my little finger. And then he ends up as an atheist, you see, guys. Anyway, wild stuff.
it was a very difficult
Now,
relationship.
mom and dad are still together.
Yeah, they're deceased now. Yeah,
No,
but at the time they
married.
were. That's right.
So he said this to you while they're married.
Yeah, yeah.
What caused him to make a statement like that?
Well, I was a rebellious kid. I pushed all his buttons, you know. I mean, I went out and did something he specifically told me not to do.
What's that?
And then, so guys, he's pointing out it wasn't just that his father was an evil scumbag. He's saying he was not the best son. Anyway.
Buy a motorcycle behind his back. I was into motorcycles.
How old were you?
I was 18. Just
When you
about-
bought the bike?
Yes. 650 Triumph Bonneville.
Okay, I thought he was going to do some horrible stuff like I did. Bought a motorcycle.
And he found out that I did it behind his back. And of course he was mad. I was pushing his buttons. I take a lot of responsibility for the difficulty in our relationship. But it was a problem. And so, interestingly, C.S. Lewis has a solution for this. Because some of your listeners may say, yeah, maybe this explains my friend, why they are so antagonistic toward the idea of God. Because their dad divorced their mother when they were young or whatever. C.S. Lewis had a solution. He said, if this is the case in someone's life, say to them, could you imagine, just imagine for a minute, what would the perfect father be like? Just imagine. Oh, well, the perfect father would be loving, he'd be kind, he'd be an encourager, he'd be your biggest cheerleader, he'd bring you up in his lap and hug you. And that is a picture of your heavenly Father. He's not just a magnified version of your earthly father who disappointed you or hurt you. He is otherworldly. He is different. He is the perfect father. And I found that to be very helpful.
What's your fondest memory of you and your father when you were a kid? Fondest memory?
Boy. We did take a car trip once. I was a teenager at the time. Took a car trip.
Car trip, that's the best thing.
Chicago to Phoenix, Arizona to deliver a car for my brother, who was a student at Arizona State. And that was kind of nice. I learned some things from my dad on that trip that he'd never talked about before. But it was just a very cold relationship. And again, I take a lot of the blame.
Did you ever rekindle that relationship, or?
He died before I was able to reconcile. And it's it was funny because I was at the wake for my dad, and these men began to come up to me, and they would say, "Are you Lee?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, your dad was so proud of you. Oh, man, every time you had a front page byline in the Chicago Tribune, he would show it to everybody. And when you got promoted to legal editor, he'd cut out that picture of you in the paper and showed it to everybody. He was so proud of you." And I was just in tears because it's like, I wish he told me.
Dang, so his dad was always proud of him especially when he was successful and so on, but never told him.
So, that's hard. It's hard. So I believe in his own way he did love me, but he had his own barriers there too.
What did Mom say? Was Mom like, "No, Lee, he loves you"?
Yeah, she was always the encourager, and she was the one that would try to patch up the relationship.
What was his name?
Walter.
Walter.
Yeah.
Do you have an older brother?
Yeah, 2 older brothers. One who died of COVID, and another older brother.
Dang.
Yeah.
Any one of
COVID
them?
is
Sorry
made
to
up
hear
by the
that. With the
Jews.
COVID situation.
Yeah.
And was one of them named Walter or no?
No, his middle name, John Walter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, I was an atheist
All right,
because
we're going to wrap it up here.
of
I just wanna
the
hear
war
what
in
PBD
Iran.
saying
I'm
about
like, there's
atheism.
no way in the world if God loves us, He's going to let innocent people die and
Yeah.
just keep me away. So it was a very different situation. But
Yes.
so, did you later on feel like was there a older man who played the role of a father in your life? Like a living?
Okay, so did you have any sort of good father figure?
Did somebody play the role of that? Where you're like, you know what? That's an example of somebody I want to be like, or no? Was it vertical?
It was vertical.
It was vertical.
Yeah.
Got it.
I
Okay.
wish I'd encountered someone like
Yeah.
that. I have people in my life today who are like that for me. And now that I'm a Christian, and I have good friends who I see model fatherhood, and I see model a strong, devoted Christian life. And it's important to have those kind of people in your life. My friend Mark Middleberg and I, we have no secrets from each other. We're best buddies since 1987. And that I learned more from him than anybody else.
He said he learned his example of a father figure is Mark Middleberg. You know him, AP? We literally had his son on here with us. We had Matthew Middleberg on here. We went through some videos when he started on YouTube, and we checked out some of his videos.
I really regret that live stream, man. I felt really terrible about that live stream.
Why? Because we're so mean?
And later on, as I thought about it, yeah. I sorry, seriously, I want to would like to get in touch with him and say that I'm really sorry for that.
Why? For what?
Because we were supposed to be genuinely critical and all that, but I feel like I was just such a jerk.
I thought you were all right. I mean, yeah, but I mean, you're a total jerk.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
No, he was cool. Hey, and it's all right because he comes from like, as far as I've observed, like the kind of the perfect family. I don't know, maybe I'm sure they would say, well, you haven't seen this big argument we had over this board game or something like that. That's what, because I went to their house once. This was years ago, but I was over there and I noticed they have like every board game imaginable, and I was looking at that and I was going, these guys are like the coolest, nicest family, closest family I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, I bet all these board games have something to do with it. They look like they sit around and play board games together, and that probably helps something. So, problem is, there's only a couple board games I can put up with, like Risk and stuff like that. But anyway, I tried to play more board games after that. But Mark Middleberg, awesome, super, super nice. His kids, like the whole family, man, the whole family. They're like as nerdy as Mike Winger, but not evil. You know what I mean? So they're kind of like as nerdy as Mike Winger, but they're good and not evil. So if you take like Mike Winger and like completely reverse the evil until it's good, that's like them. Anyway, and it's just interesting. Like that's the reaction I had to them. And like Lee Strobel, even though he's 74 years old, when he's thinking of positive father figure, he's thinking of the same guy I would think of in a heartbeat if you thought, who's like awesome father figure. All right. Well, AP apparently feels bad about something to do with the interaction with Matthew Middleberg. So maybe we'll get him on. Gosh, we can't even have, that was before. I'm just saying that was before all the zoot jokes and stuff like that. This would be like a very toxic, he'd be traumatized.
Do you remember you brought him on because he was starting out stuff, and we were supposed to sit down and genuinely and in all honesty critically analyze and tell him where he can improve things and all that.
We did do that.
And
we're pointing out why some of the videos we're doing better, and we're talking about titles and thumbnails
and I was just being completely brutally harsh and all that. And I thought, and in my mind, I kind of justified that to myself because I thought, it's the internet. You're gonna start the whole, speaking to people to online comments, and people are just generally, people are often very awful, say terrible things and all that. So better point out to somebody who starts new things in a very direct and, if necessary, harsh way and all that. But then I did this. I mean, I even realized it in the moment. I was being completely unnecessarily a jerk, and also being a jerk about belief in God, because I was kind of annoyed about it at the time. I was an atheist, and I was fierce about it. And immediately after the live stream, I thought, man, why did I do that?
Because you're an atheist.
That was awesome. And then later on, I thought about it again over the years or months, and I thought that was so bad, man. That was horrible of me. So, yeah. I know you don't get it because you're a psychopath, but I genuinely felt bad about that,
Well, that's good. You should feel bad for always being a jerk, Aaron. All right, let's take these super chats and we'll be out here. There is an expert called Oakdale you can have on. Expert on what? I'm sorry. This is from like an hour ago, probably. Oakdale on what? Oh, probably what we were saying. It might be good to have an expert on Shroud of Turin at some point. So maybe he means that.
Nope. Oakdale is a city.
That's Oakland.
Population. No, there's a city called Oakdale.
There's a city called Oakland. All right, you heard it here. The Turk says there's no city called Oakland. Yeah.
There's a village called Oakdale. 199 population. What the heck?
199. That's small. I'm saying that because I grew up in Granville, West Virginia, which had a population like 400, and that was a tiny little place. And so 199. Do you believe the early Quran matched our Bible before Uthman got a hold of it? Yes, this is the, we're going to start. We've all brought this up at various points, but we need to start arguing more forcefully. The original Quran, which was completely burned by Uthman, agreed with Christians completely. Then he came in and corrupted it. Rap snitches telling all their business, sit down in a court and be their own star witness. Oh, that was a rap. Rap snitches telling all the business, sit down in court and be their own star witness. There you go, Malik. Doom on Malik. I thought of this watching yesterday's stream, but missed it live. That'll be good. Yeah. It's all true, like 100% true. Malik is the ultimate self-snitch. He's more of a self-snitch than Andrew Tate. We should start a brewery called Beer Christianity. That'd be a good one. Ya haram, kufar dog in the house, Ridwan. Stuck for a lot. That was powerful. Happy Easter to you both. Happy Easter to everybody. I didn't hear the phrase Because that's why, even once in that discussion, so I don't know what I'm supposed to believe. Do they even mubahala? We still
Probably
need to get,
not.
do you even mubahala, bro? Shirts. Christ is risen. Just had a question. How would you explain if someone does harm to someone, but they repent and follow Christ? They go to heaven, but the victim who doesn't want to forgive goes to hell. Oh, well, you situations like that where you don't understand. You just have to understand, like, God is a just judge. He's an all-knowing, perfectly just judge. Here in this realm, on this plane, you have all sorts of judges with very limited information and biases and so on. You just have to trust the creator of the universe that he's going to judge appropriately. Replacement theologists. Jews killed Christ. Also replacement theologists. Jews equal the church. P.S. Sad you see is how I learned who they are. Yeah. A bunch of people remarked that they heard that same terrible joke.
I usually think sad to see. That's what I think. So it was very sad to see.
House of Hikmah says, I exposed you and AP wearing Star Trek uniforms on X, and you call Mike Winger a total Star Trek nerd. That's what you get for making fun of him. Yeah, he's using some of this stupid AI stuff to make us seem nerdy when he's got the real deal. Since AP is Orthodox, he should change his name to Alexandros Papadopoulos instead of apostate prophet. Alexandros Papadopoulos. That's a good one, man.
But why?
Why not? The haters are jealous of our Hanukkah donuts. They are. Romans 11:28-29. If God throws away the Jews, he will also throw you away. Have Christians been 100% faithful the last 2,000 years? If no, replaced. And who are you getting?
It is a wonderful text. It says, "Don't boast. If he can do that to them, he can also do it to you."
It's your hero there, Haj Ryan Ghazlani. Let's see. If you want to laugh and cry, watch Nick Matau. She was just asking questions until the mask slipped.
Oh gosh, I saw that, man.
What is that?
He was talking.
Is that a poster or a video? Video?
It's a video. He does these things. He goes online and just talks to random people.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking to this one girl who claims to be a Christian.
Oh, I think someone already mentioned that. So that's the girl who is claiming to be Christian, and she hates Jews. And then she's never heard of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
Yeah.
And so on.
She doesn't know what the Gospels are. She doesn't know who Paul is. She doesn't know the basic beliefs of Christianity. But she comes in with that she's a Christian, and as a Christian, she believes that Jews are terrible and all that. It's incredible, man. Wow.
The Apostles' Creed, Juicia. I am no longer a cat human. He is risen. Whoa!
Congratulations.
They just passed you. They just passed you, man.
Praise be to
Running
God.
Late and Catching Up. By far, C.S. Lewis' most insightful writing is The Weight of Glory. It's a half-hour sermon, blows mere Christianity and abolition of man out of the water. I do not believe that, but I may check that out at some point because mere Christianity and abolition of man were banging. Hi, David. Hi, AP. I'm so glad you endorsed Lee Strobel. He put in all the legwork for non-believers. I love David's smirkiness at debates. Debs and Shirley. Yeah, no, guys, you always have to, you got to give respect. Back in the day, they called it standing on the shoulders of giants. They would say that if I have seen further, it's because I was standing on the shoulders of giants. In other words, yep, I'm seeing. Each generation gets to learn more and go further and stuff. But you got to look back. Josh McDowell, he's the one who made apologetics start becoming popular and so on. And then Lee Strobel, a bunch of other guys come along. You had the more academic people like William Lane Craig and so on, Gary Habermas and all that. And now you got us. Endless zoot jokes. We couldn't have done it. We couldn't have done it without the guys who came before us.
This was a pretty good show today, man. It's good that we did something that is more
Yeah, that's
focused
actually
on.
positive and not just like
Yeah,
destructive. Yeah.
yeah,
We're good at destroying crap and making fun of stuff.
yeah. But today we needed something different.
Yeah, would have been weird to. Now, guys, in case you're watching this on Muslim Friends and you're thinking, wow, David and AP are just focusing on positive things like the resurrection and Lee Strobel's testimony. See, they're not going to be making fun of Muhammad anymore. We're going to go to sleep tonight. And when we wake up, it's back in the saddle again. Matter of fact, let me see if IP has scheduled it yet. He wanted to do something for tomorrow. Let's see. Inspiring philosophy. Oh, nope, it's not scheduled yet. Uh-oh. Ooh, you guys better hope he changes his mind. So, anyway, tomorrow, well, let me go ahead and say it. Tomorrow, it was originally planned that we're going to go live on IP's channel. We're going to have Mary Harp on there, and we're going to be discussing Muhammad's mom. So anyway, there's that. And then on Tuesday, guys, we got the 2026 version of information about Muhammad that needs to be shared, like we shared with the Zut. About the Zut last year. Got that, guys? It's the new stuff. And it's the same thing. These Dawa guys are so dumb. They're going to be like, no, we can refute this. And then 6 months later, they're going to be, oh my goodness, everyone in the whole world is saying this and we can't stop it with our lies. Oh, these are fun times. Holy and blessed Easter to you all. Love all you guys. We are a happy little dysfunctional online family. That is actually the perfect description of this group. A happy little dysfunctional online family. We're happy. We're little in terms of, we'll have like 1,500, 2,000 people watching and stuff like that.
I'm not little.
Happy, little, dysfunctional. We're online and family. Perfect description.
Yeah.
I'm curious, AP, seeing as your conversion wasn't necessarily based on the historical evidence for
You
Christ.
said my conversion wasn't based?
He says your
man?
Yep, stop it right there. Hey, AP, seeing as your conversion wasn't necessarily based.
Anyway, continue.
He says, on the historical evidence, I should just pause randomly after the word based. I'm curious, AP, seeing as your conversion wasn't necessarily based on the historical evidence of Christ, do you resonate with the Lee Strobel stuff?
It is kind of complicated because it wasn't necessarily based on that, but it was also based on it. Because one of the things that did drive me most toward wanting to become a Christian, or giving me one of the pushes toward wanting to be a Christian, were the whole idea of the witness of the resurrection. So I think that that is the evidence, and I also use it. I used that in a debate recently. So I think that part of it is actually a very, very good one that I also consider important. But yeah, I definitely do think that the whole point, the whole case for Christ, the evidence is a very important one. I consider it quite important and quite good. I personally just have more of a. I personally just put more. I don't even know how to express this without it sounding, wrong. But I place more importance on my personal faith and relationship than I do on the evidence. But the evidence is quite important. So, yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and so that's AP, and yeah, with me, a lot of the stuff, that's why it was interesting to me. Like, I became a Christian, and I thought I was, like, figuring this stuff out, and then I read More Than a Carpenter, and it was saying some of the same stuff, and then I was reading Case for Christ, and he's interviewing scholars, and they were saying some of the same same basic reason, and they were just giving me a lot more details and stuff, so that was all cool stuff. So Yeah, stuff really resonated with me. Don't worry,
So
AP.
big.
Don't worry, AP. I'm sure Matthew Middleburg was totally scarred from your harshness. Totally. That's funny. And then we have finally Easter, Samiak, screw death. Jesus 1, death 0. That's good. Oh,
Hey, language.
hey, but that is a good way to. Has anyone been putting that? People should have been writing that all day. Jesus 1, death 0.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, it's a big thing that is emphasized in the Orthodox Church all the time. Defeating death. Jesus defeating death.
Well, that's we read the creed in 1 Corinthians 15. If you continue reading that chapter, that's called the resurrection chapter. So you got 1 Corinthians 13. That's called the love chapter. 1 Corinthians 15. That's called the resurrection chapter. It's all about the resurrection. Oh, death, where is your victory? Oh, death, where is your sting? All right, AP. Any final thoughts, or you want to tell anyone anything?
No. Yeah, we're currently talking about. We have plans. We'll talk about those plans. This month and the next month will be interesting. There'll be some big developments. There'll be plans. Other than that, we'll see you all soon. And I am very happy that this was a quite positive and a more Christianity focused live stream, actually. And God bless y'all, and God bless America.
Yeah, we should do one of these like once a year. Something positive. And then we have
Let's see.
Dumb Idols. Dumb Idol says, please do a hi, I'm Lee Strobel before the end of the stream, please. Yeah, he goes, hi, I'm Lee Strobel. It's like, dude, your name's not Strobel. It's Strobel, dude. Strobel. Not Strobel. Like, what is that? Oh, that's so weird. And then we have testing, check replies. Replies to what? We got to go now. You don't even know what you're talking about. So testing. Your test has confirmed. But we're out now. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Twisting, infesting in your kids' season, nesting.
Thanks for watching. In theory, fun show on IP's channel tomorrow. Funner show on Tuesday for my birthday. And guys, I'm telling you in advance because I know what's planned for this month. You're thinking, oh, it's already the 5th. What could possibly happen? Stuff's going to happen this month, guys. Stuff's kicking off.
It goes like this: the 4th, the 5th.
The minor fall and the major lift. Pow. Catch y'all later.